Mic is off. Okay. All right. So welcome everybody. Welcome. My mic was off, of course. Thank you. Listen, thank you for joining me on this live stream. And I feel happy, lucky, blessed that I'm going to be joined by a group of individuals who I actually religiously follow on all social media platforms. And I couldn't be more grateful that they have agreed to join my live stream. So without further ado, let me make sure who's in the chat, because I want to say hello to some of you guys that are my loyal weekly watchers. Make sure to hit like, subscribe. Every person that's going to be on this live stream, you can find them on the description and leaving all the socials there, so you can follow them as well. So but thank you for joining this live stream. And let's have some fun. Tonight is going to be a good, positive vibe as usual, like we do every week. We're going to be talking about Superman. We're going to be talking about the DCU, James Gunn's plans, and everything in between, the marketing, what we hope to see in this film, and what we hope to see in the future. All those things that we talk, when we gather around with our friends to talk about this geek stuff. Okay, so let me start bringing everybody in. Let me see who's here. Oh, everybody's here already. All right. First of all, Dave, the film junkie, my friend. Thank you for being here.
Is my picture moving? Am I moving?
Yeah, you're moving. Okay. Yara Wayne, thank you for showing up. I appreciate you showing up. I appreciate you, my friend.
Hey, Dave.
Hey, how's it going? How you doing?
I have Kris Carr. Thank you. This is the first time
I can't hear anything. I'm so sorry.
You can hear me? Oh my God.
Uh-oh.
Oh boy.
I'll see if it's something on my end. I'll be back.
Okay. So I have Slav. Thank you for joining me, my friend.
What's going on?
Good to see you here.
Yeah.
All right, let me see. I got RJ. Why it's not when I click on this stuff? Never. Hey, RJ. Good to see you here, buddy. Hey. Good to see you here. Let me see. Oh my God. Wait, hold up. Yes, I have lost all my ability to use StreamYard because it's the first time I used it in years. Let's see. Justin, my favorite TikToker. Good to see you here.
Thank you. How's it going? Can everybody hear me, by the way? I just want to make sure.
I can hear you.
Yeah,
you're good. Yes.
Yeah,
Perfect. Andy?
Hello,
Andy. How you doing, my lovely friend? How's everything?
I'm doing well. Nice to see you all. If my fan is too loud, I can absolutely turn it off. But if this is fine, because it's summer, but if it is too loud, I will absolutely turn it off. So I hope everyone's doing good.
Yeah. No, you're good. You're good, buddy.
You're good. I can't hear it. I have a fan on too. It's good.
Okay, but we can hear. Oh, we can hear each other, right? We're good.
Yep.
See.
Awesome. So, how's everybody's week going? Any plans for the 4th of July?
Just family stuff.
Working.
Family stuff. Maybe go see Jurassic World.
Oh, okay. Who else is gonna see? Oh, Dave, I know. I saw your reaction.
Yeah. I'll just keep it at that.
Yeah,
okay.
I didn't see your reaction, Dave, to that.
Oh yeah.
When do you win today, Dave?
It was a Jurassic World movie, that's for sure.
Oh,
boy.
I saw it yesterday.
It had dinosaurs. It had people running.
Okay, Kris, can you hear?
I think I'm actually working now. I don't know. Okay. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
I can hear you.
Oh.
Awesome. Thank you for joining the live stream. I appreciate you accepting my invitation.
Yeah, I'm so glad I can finally show up to something.
But I'm glad that this is the one that you picked to show up to. So yeah, I think this is gonna be a fun night. Yes. There's more people that are gonna join us. Your friend, Robert Meyer, Burnett, he's gonna join us later on. He's running a little bit late, and somebody else too, and maybe more people might join in.
And then we lost someone.
We just lost somebody. Okay, all right, and I don't even know who. Anyway, all right, guys. So 4th of July. Anybody has any big plans? I just asked this question. Nobody answered.
I'm just working. So
you're working on the 4th of July?
Yeah.
Oh, buddy, that sucks.
I don't because I am from Panama, so you know.
Oh
Yeah,
yes, that's
Some
right.
people don't live in America.
Yeah, I know. I'm, so- I'm
It's not
sorry.
a national holiday.
Oh, thank you, Dave. Thank you, Dave.
You're welcome.
Yara, I know. I'm sorry.
No worries, no worries. Although I work for a U.S. company and I have to work tomorrow, and actually we're going to do some hamburgers. So yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if that counts. You know.
That's
So those-
something.
It's something.
Yeah.
Damn, now I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have to mention food?
You have to make to what?
Did you have to mention food? Now I'm actually getting hungry.
Oh no. You cannot step away throughout this live stream. So
I'm just gonna do a rewatch of Firefly.
a Firefly?
Yeah. I'm gonna watch those brown coats. I'm gonna have a great time and eat some hamburgers.
I was looking for something to rewatch, and I just couldn't think of anything. Actually, I have Ironheart queued up, and of course they spoiled the end already. So
I didn't realize it was.
Yeah,
I
thanks,
forgot
John
that they were-
Campia.
I forgot they were releasing like all the episodes within 2 weeks. I had no idea.
Like it's
Yeah,
already
I think
over.
It's already
Yeah,
over.
it's over.
Yes,
Yeah,
already
it's
over.
What, so
Yeah.
so this was only 2 weeks.
Yeah, they were just like, get it out, get it.
pretty much,
Oh
yeah.
my god.
And I
Just three
hear that
episodes on 3 episodes.
There's been a lot of Disney Plus shows this year that seems to be like doing like free episodes, and boom. Like I didn't even know Andor's final season. I'm like, well, Andor's a pretty big show. Like, wouldn't they want to, milk us out a little bit? But like, nope, they're just dropping
For
everything.
that one though, too,
Push
that
me
was
out.
all like the different time clumps kind of coming together.
yeah.
That one makes sense.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't watched anything Star Wars since Obi-Wan, so I don't know how. Yeah, I know, like, but like the
Lindsay,
show.
you gotta.
I know everyone.
Andor
keeps
is very
saying it.
good. Actually, I love it.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
and season 2 is phenomenal. It's really good.
Yeah,
It's like
it's
the best Star
amazing.
Wars I've seen in a while.
I'm so
yeah.
how come it's already
That's
the final
fish. That's
season?
fish. Was amazing.
Yeah, I love the side stuff. I kind of fallen off on the main continuity, but like all those side stories, I love. I guess that's why I'm enjoying the hell out of well, I love Mandalorian, and now this show. But let's get into this conversation about Superman. Has anybody seen any marketing? Because the marketing hasn't.
No,
Yeah.
it's been
No way.
empty. Like no
There's
statues.
been no marketing at all for this
No,
movie.
No
Okay.
statues in London.
For which movie? Which movie are you talking about?
It's a small budget
There's
film.
a Superman movie coming out. What?
Oh, I didn't know it.
Little indie film. Yeah.
Haven't
Yeah.
seen anything.
Yeah, I don't know, Chris. Have you heard the the back and forth where there's no marketing for this movie at all? I don't know if you've heard that.
I haven't heard any of that because all I do is talk about this movie. I feel.
That's the joke. Yeah.
I feel like I eat, sleep, and breathe this movie. This is all the people want to talk about, and my algorithm is just chock full of David Cornsweet doing TikTok trends.
Yeah, the marketing has been very smart, going after anything that's trending, and I think that is. I think there was a report that came out a couple of weeks ago where they were talking about how studios are going after the TikTok, the influencers, and try to make sure that every actor that's going to be part of a production is very active on social media. And I think this is also part of that umbrella, a part of the marketing.
Well,
So
you could
then-
tell, like, because even when they were on set, like in the Daily Planet set, they were making videos right then. So, like,
they
a year ago,
planned
they
this.
were making videos. That was smart on their behalf. Also,
Yeah.
while they're setting up like lighting and all this stuff and just waiting around, they were making TikTok videos.
Mhm.
Smart.
Yeah, I've really liked some of the social media stuff they did. Like they did like the one that was like the Full House opening. There was another one that did like a trust fall between Nicholas
Trust
Hoult
fall
and
one
David
was great.
Cornsweet was cool. So
The
there's
Full
I think it
House
was
one.
another one was like what was it, the Princess Diaries where they like auto dubbed over it.
That was
Like,
awesome.
Yes.
picture
That
frames.
was awesome.
I love that one.
It's so good.
That was
And they
great.
just released another spot. Just
Of
released
course they
another spot.
Yeah, I don't. I'm already.
footage.
I'm
yeah.
at the point where I'm just like I'm gonna see the movie. I don't need to see anymore. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, I don't want to see more.
Yeah.
No,
I try to avoid them, but everyone posts screenshots of like, here's a thread of all the 4K stills. And I'm like, oh, okay, there we go. So even if I want to avoid the footage, it still comes to my feed no matter what. But
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but you know what? Like honestly, because I love, because we've all we've all followed DC movies in the last few years, and we know the marketing has been, it's been interesting. It's been
Right.
interesting to say the least. So it's fun to see, like, hey, you know what? This is fun again. It's actually fun that they're actually, to try new things. And not that I understand the TikTok generation, but like, it's fun. It's fun seeing them actually like trying different things and getting with the trends, I guess.
Okay. Well, let's. I want to go back to the beginning because I want to kind of do go back all the way to the beginning when James Gunn was announced as the head of DC and up to this point. So I just want to know each one of you what were your initial thoughts when James Gunn was announced as the new head of DC, and also specifically that he was also involved on writing and directing this film. What were your initial thoughts, Dave?
Oh, I was like, oh, this guy's gonna ruin DC. My God, they picked this guy. Yeah. No, I was at first I was like, oh, okay, cool. If they were gonna do something, they're gonna split it up and have somebody run the business side, somebody run the creative side. Regardless of how anybody even just like feels about James Gunn, I was like, well, it's pretty perfect if you have somebody who just loves this kind of stuff and knows this stuff. Probably the best man for the job. Yeah, I get it. Some people don't like him. It's a weird thing out there sometimes where people just the mere mention of his name or his image, they just they break a pencil. But but at the same time, it's like I just was like, all right, that actually makes sense. Smart. That's because obviously we've been wanting a DC Studios for even when Zack was there and the Snyderverse was doing something, and then of course post Snyderverse, kind of when they were still trying to figure it out, we wanted something. So obviously I was just like, oh, okay, he's gonna do it, James Gunn's gonna do it. I'm like, that sounds about right. I'm not like the biggest James Gunn fan. I don't love him, but I don't hate him. So
sure.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought it was actually a pretty good idea. So
okay. How about you, Kris? Your first thoughts when you heard the announcement?
As a studio head, it did make me scratch my head a little bit. But you're a creative guy. You're making movies. You're writing stuff. Why are you doing this part? This is for a pencil pusher. This is somebody else to step in here. But I do like the idea of somebody who loves movies, especially with the studio happening right now. Of most of the time, an executive's job is somebody who loves movies is here to ruin movies. Yeah. I love that we have a creative guy in the seat. As a director and a writer, I'm a big fan. I mean, I've loved James Gunn since his Trauma days. And I think he's just a great storyteller. I think he's great with ensemble casts. Yes. And so I'm one of the people who have not been as concerned about the overstuffed quality that could be happening here. I've been pretty jazzed about the whole thing.
And how about you, Slav? How you felt about having him be the co-head and also writing, directing, producing the first DCU film?
For me, it came down to what I wanted to see for DC, and I'm a DC fan first. So when they said James Gunn, I was like, okay, we've seen what he's done with Guardians. We saw what he's done with his other films outside of the comic book realm, whether it was Super, whether it was, things with Trauma or Slither, that kind of stuff.
Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, Scooby-Doo. There you go.
Yeah.
But we've seen those types of things, and we know that he is a very talented writer. And they mentioned Peter Safran was going to be more of the producer side of the things when it comes to the CEO stuff. So I was like, okay, if James Gunn is going to focus on the writing aspect, the creative side, the side where he's going to be the one that is envisioning and putting everything into motion, I'm all for that, because when it comes to DC, like I said, I'm a huge DC fan. That's what I want to see. I want to see somebody with a vision actually take time and care into doing that, because let's face it, under Walter Hamada, under really what it was when it was Jeff Johns and John Berg, and whatever it was, we don't really know what was going on in the 2010s. Who knows what was going on then?
Sure.
We didn't have that. It was kind of just a hodgepodge of a mess. For me, this was like, okay, we know James Gunn is a great writer. We know he knows what his comic book stuff. This is exciting. This is good. So let's see what's going to happen. Again, yeah, there's people that don't like him, but we can get past that. We can get past that
Right.
once the projects start coming out and being successful.
There you go. I have one more person joining us. Robert Mar Burnett. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Greetings, programs, and hello, Kris Carr.
Hi, baby.
Hello.
What's up, Robert?
How are you all?
We are doing great, and thank you
Good.
again. Thank you for joining this live stream. You, everyone here. I appreciate every single one of you who accepted my invitation and were gracious enough to give your precious time to come here and talk about this stuff.
Well, thanks for asking me.
No, thank you guys for it. But going back to the same question, I want to present the same question to you, Robert. Your thoughts? You gotta hit the ground running. Your thoughts on when they announced James Gunn as the head of DC and being the writer of the first film that's gonna kick off this universe, and also the producer, and kind of wear many hats on this film that is supposed to set the foundation of what's to come.
Well, 26 years ago, I worked with James Gunn on a movie called The Specials that he wrote, which was also a superhero movie that Craig Mazin, who co-created Last of Us with Neil Druckmann, the TV series. He also did Chernobyl. Craig Mazin, it was the first thing he directed, and James Gunn wrote and co-starred in the movie as a hero named Minute Man. And it was a superhero movie that was made for $1 million. And it had people like Thomas Hayden Church and Paget Brewster and Rob Lowe and Sean Gunn. And it had a really, really great cast. And I got to know James Gunn a little bit there. And I love the guy. You know, I'm a huge, huge James Gunn fan. I mean, he came out of the indie world. Then he moved over as a writer. He wrote Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead. And then he wrote a lot of, studio movies, did a lot of punch-up work that he wasn't credited for. And as a filmmaker, like somebody brought, like a Slav brought up Slither and Super, which were great $3 million movies. Then that's why I think he got the job directing Guardians 1. And I think that, to me, superhero movies are really all about tone. Comic book adaptations are about tone. And so often what we've seen is the tone that what a studio thought they were making. Like, I'll give you an example. I did the special features for X-Men 1, the X-Men 1.5. Lauren Shuler Donner thought Bryan Singer had made the wrong movie. She didn't even go to the premiere that was set on Ellis Island, on where the Statue of Liberty is. She was so convinced that Bryan's approach to X-Men was wrong that she thought she had a huge bomb on her hands. And the movie opened to $56 million at the time, was one of the biggest openings of all time that weekend. And one of the interesting things about, and I think a lot of people thought that about, let's look at where comic book movies were before 2000 and X-Men came out. In the late 90s, well, the mid 90s, in 94, The Crow came out, which I thought was a pretty great adaptation of James O'Barr's comic. And then you had, of course, Stephen Norrington's Blade, which was pretty interesting despite its troubled production. And those were two movies, I think, that nailed the tone. Tim Burton's Batman was looked at as a departure. People, they knew the Burt Ward and Adam West series. And I think it was Bryan Singer who said, look, if you look at the first X-Men, there's a lot of goofy stuff in that movie. There's Toad, Sabretooth, even Mystique. They're turning Bruce Davidson, a senator, into a mutant that turns into a puddle of water, basically. But if you look at that film, the opening in Auschwitz, but I think which was a bold way to start the movie, but I think the real modern comic book movie was born in the scene with Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart that followed that Alcatraz scene, when Phoenix is giving her address to like the United Nations, and Patrick, Magneto, and Xavier have it out. Like, are you in my head, Charles? And you realized exactly what kind of a movie. Bryan Singer said, look, this is as valid as any movie you're going to watch. And even though it's going to be fantastical, and then to see the Wolverine story and Rogue's story, he kind of got you into the story with the two of them, and seeing Wolverine's life as a cage fighter and not having a great life. He immediately said, look, we can set these fantastical characters in the real world. and we immediately made an audience. To be honest, I'll tell you, Brian never read an X-Men comic. He'd never seen X-Men until Tom DeSanto, who's the executive producer of that movie, made him watch X-Men the animated series. And that's how Brian learned everything he needed to know about X-Men.
Kevin Feige was part of the production in that film, if I'm not mistaken.
He was there. I believe I met him. But yeah, he was there for that and X-Men 2. He was there. Kevin Feige produced 14 Marvel movies before the MCU was birthed.
And I don't know if this is true, but no, actually it was Hugh Jackman who said that Kevin Feige was the one that was showing them comic books about all these characters, because the director didn't want to.
No,
he didn't want comic books. Yeah,
is any truth to that?
That's absolutely true.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and Hugh Jackman thought he didn't know anything about Wolverine, and he tells the story about how he was emulating like the animal. You know, he thought he was supposed to play this
rugged individual. That's it.
This animal character, like doing animal movements and stuff. But I think that the difference is that what James Gunn is going for is a tone that we've never seen before. Which is he's creating an amalgamation of the entire Superman legacy from the beginning. I mean, people forget Superman couldn't fly.
Yeah,
when he was first created, you know, and you're going from the 1930s to the present day. I mean, I don't know if this is true, but it seems to be like James Gunn said on one of these interviews that he's brought back the trope that the glasses he wears hypnotize people into not knowing he's Clark Kent.
Very old one, by the way.
I mean, that's an old trope, but bring it on. I love that idea that he uses tech, because, you know, some people look, there's a lot of people that don't know that tone. They haven't seen it yet. They grew up with the animated Batman, the animated series. They grew up with the Superman animated series, Justice League International, and then all the movies post what Tim Burton did. They don't know what the Silver Age feels like or what the tone of it is. And I think if people give it a shot, they're going to see a kind of superhero entertainment that they've never seen before. And it's going to take people time to acclimate themselves. Look, you all know online, there's a lot of people that don't want this move. They're like convinced.
What?
No,
I know, right?
What are you talking about?
I would say that they haven't seen what James Gunn is, and I'm not saying that necessarily means they're going to like it. But I think that if you're open-minded, I think there's going to be a fun factor. And look, I'll tell you one thing: if you've watched David Cornsweet on any of these interviews, that guy is Superman.
He's got a lot of personality.
That guy's Superman.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you look at him talk, and the fact that he's doing theater in Philadelphia in his hometown right now.
Yeah, it's
know, and that he went to Juilliard, and I mean, it's
he uses Superman. And talking about that, James Gunn created a brand new universe, and it's like totally different from the previous iteration, which was more a little bit darker, stoic, mythic, if you will. Do you feel that this shift from James Gunn is kind of a commentary on what needs to be changed on today's climate, especially like the political climate, global tensions, or even social media, which has become a toxic place for just toxicity and negativity?
Is that for me or for everyone?
You know what?
Go to someone else. Because I can answer.
Let me grab.
I don't want to be a blowhard.
Yeah, keep talking.
Did you hear that question?
Who?
Justin?
Oh.
Can you hear me?
Sorry? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I keep getting kicked out for some reason, and it's
It's StreamYard.
Oh boy, I'm sorry.
From Ben, jeez.
No, I'm not doing anything. I promise.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I'll take
RJ. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll go. I feel like really the way he's talked about this movie, the way it seems like he's crafting it, it is very much, inspired by All-Star Superman, a book that everybody should read.
Yes, absolutely.
It's Grant Morrison's magnum opus. It's his masterpiece, in my opinion. But yeah, the way he's talked about this movie, it's like Superman as a character is so challenging in a lot of ways because he's like 80 plus years old. He's changed from generation to generation. My father grew up with the Christopher Reeve movies. That was his Superman. but you also have like the George Reeves serials. You have, you know, the Fleischer cartoons. You know, the character has changed so much from when he initially created. I feel like he has to evolve with the times a little bit, and I feel like that's what you saw Zack Snyder try to do way back. Where it's like it's the post 9/11 Superman,
right?
You know, that's like that post 9/11 Superman, where it's like you're trying to like deal with the concept of like the immigration question, and also to like how people react to if this character really exists in our world. What's different though is that with this movie, we're being asked to enter a different world from our own. I think that's like the really big difference, where it's not us trying to like understand Superman if he was in our world. It's more so understanding who this character is as his core in his world. So I feel like that's really the big question. And, you know, like the you know, you have like the scene between Lois and Superman as well, where it's like, you know, she's kind of questioning like, you know, his actions a little bit, being like kind of representing what people would think, where it's like, well, do you represent America? Do you represent the world? Like, who do you represent when you do this stuff? Are you thinking about these things? When really he's just like, I just want to save people. I don't want to have to think about that. I just want to do the right thing. But doing the right thing isn't always easy. So that's the kind of stuff I love this movie is seemingly addressing as well, where it's really asking those kind of questions.
Right. How about you, Yara? Do you feel that this film that James Gunn is making is sort of a commentary on what's going on today, whether it's social media, whether it's the political climate or anything that's negative that's going on around the world right now?
Yes. Before I answer that, I want to go back to the first question that you did, because
sure.
You know, when we all find out that James Gunn was going to be the head of DC Studios, and something that I think that everybody is forgetting also is that news came with the other news that we are getting a DC Studios.
Oh yeah.
And that for me is very important, because all the things that happened in the past is because of all this executive and, you know, no? So all the drama that happens in the past. So I think that's a very, very important thing. And yes, I agree with Kris. I'm happy to have like a creative being in charge of this whole universe, no? So, and the other question that you are asking is, yes, I think it's a commentary on what's going on around the world right now, but in their context. I don't know how to explain this. It's like we are not getting this Superman movie, and we are not getting this like to understand this in our world. No, we are this movie is taking us to Superman world, but with all these things that are happening in our world. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know if that makes sense.
You're trying to say, you're basically, you know, like we're not seeing, you know, like, you know, we're not seeing like our history lived through DC's character. This is, you know, the history in the DCU could have played out very differently from real world, where like, let's say 9/11 never happened in the DCU, or you know, New York doesn't exist, or Los Angeles doesn't exist, or certain presidents never existed and stuff like that. It's like basically it's a fictional history of what fits into that world. Is that what you're trying to say, Yara?
Exactly, something like that, but with elements of our world. You know what I mean? Like all this, because I saw people complaining about the people taking pictures of the Caillou, but that's what's happening.
That's us. That's us now.
That's what's happening right now in the world.
Yeah.
You know, you see somebody like the other day, I saw somebody like getting to fire in the New York train. I don't know if you saw that news like 1 month ago, and people were like, you know, taking videos about that. So
yeah, I think people are kidding. Like, listen, with the TikTok generation that we're at, I think people are kidding themselves. They don't think that a TikTok influencer of Superman was flying around, wouldn't be filming themselves doing a pose like Eve Tessmacher does.
Oh yeah,
people would 100% do that.
Absolutely.
Today.
It doesn't 100%. Matter that if the world's falling behind them, they want to get those clicks and views.
And similar to what Zack was trying to show, you know, back with BVS and everything during, you know, 2014, 2015. Now we're seeing a decade later. Now that social media has blown up to the monster that it is, we're going to be seeing, you know, James Gunn's going to be showing that, but in a, you know, obviously he's going to have more of a fantastical element, less grounded element. So and that's what I've been noticing, at least with everything. So.
Yeah, I also feel like all of this feels like it fits within the times that we live in. It's like just like the Christopher Reeve Superman embodied the spirit of the 70s and the 80s and the early 90s. and that became that generation Superman. And I was thinking about this before I started the live stream, and I wanted to ask you guys, do you think that probably I'm getting ahead of myself, but do you think by touching on today's issues or allude to some of these issues, this version that he's forging ahead could make him this generation Superman if executed properly and respectfully? Anyone can take that.
Well, you know, one of the great things about especially mid 20th century fantasy, sci-fi fantasy, and horror writers is they frequently used genre fiction as a way to address the issues of the day,
right,
without pissing people off. So you don't have to write directly about, I'm going to write about this issue. Like in the case of, say, Star Trek, the Enterprise would come across a planet that was having a problem that we, the viewers, can go, oh, that's like what's happening here. But it's an alien planet, so it's different. So you can present both sides of an argument that doesn't have to be partisan. It's, you know, it's allegorical. The Twilight Zone was masterful at that. You know, the 5 years it lasted, and that's what Rod Serling, you know, he wanted to address social issues in a way where he could talk about things they wouldn't let you talk about on TV from 1959 to 64. And I think that, you know, in a way, we've sort of forgotten that. And bringing allegory back to fantasy is a really great way to, I mean, oh, look, we are so tribal and so polarized, and you're either for me or against me. We're either 1 to 10, when the world isn't like that. You know, the world is gray, and I can have friends on both sides of the political aisle. I can have friends of all shapes, sizes, colors, creeds, sexualities, and they can still be my friends, but I might have differing opinions than they do.
Right.
But we can still talk. And I think within a great fantasy context, like James Gunn is trying to build, apparently in his Superman, now I haven't seen it, but it begins with a few text cards setting it all up. And you find out that there's been 300 metahumans on Earth for quite some time. And that Superman landed on Earth 30 years ago, but he's only been active for 3 years. So we're 3 years into his career. But there's already been metahumans on Earth. And we also we've got the Supergirl show. We've got the Lantern series that has already been done with Aaron Pierre and Coach Taylor from Friday Night Lights.
Yes.
Kyle Chandler. And
Clear.
And I think that's one of the things that James Gunn wanted to do. Also, it gives you a lot of areas. Like if you want to go full on horror, look at what Alan Moore did with Swamp Thing.
Oh yeah.
Even though that was part of the DC universe, DC Comics universe, but that stuff was really heady, and that gave us Hellblazer,
stuff like Animal Man too.
Yeah,
Animal
I mean,
Man,
all the Vertigo books.
Vertigo stuff, yeah.
I mean, you had a Vertigo book, The Coyote Gospel, one of the great comics ever, where the coyote from the Warner Brothers animated from Looney Tunes was made a really tragic hero or character in a Grant Morrison Animal Man comic. And I think that and you believed it. And I think that's what James Gunn is hoping to do with this Superman movie. He's going to show you that this is a universe that it's a wheel with 100 spokes, and you can choose to go. There's a center, certainly, but you can go on the outer parts of the wheel down any one of those 100 spokes and tell whatever stories you want. I mean, we're going to get Tom King's Supergirl with Lobo, and I have no idea what the Lantern show is going to be like, but I think that's really, really exciting. And to have a studio, you have somebody like James Gunn, who's a huge comic book reader, who knows he's setting a tone, but he knows, and like you said, I want the scripts to be finished, and I want them to be solid scripts before we do anything. And I, for one, we haven't seen that before. The Marvel Cinematic Universe had its own, their sort of story conclave of people. They've lost that, but they had that, and they did a good job with the Infinity Saga for 23 movies at least of keeping things fairly cohesive. I'm looking forward to going a much more fantastical Silver Age universe. I think that's going to be really interesting, and I think once people see it, there's going to be people that are going to dismiss it outright. But once people
they've already written their reviews.
But I think that I mean, entertainment's entertainment. The proof's in the pudding. You know, I would say, I've told people that even though it has nothing to do with it, we're celebrating now the 40th anniversary of Back to the Future, which came out
Crazy.
in
My favorite movie of all
1994.
time, by the way.
That film, the tone of that movie is sort of a Silver Age tone.
It is.
And I think that that's what we're going to see from, and I'm not saying this has anything to do with Back to the Future, but remember that movie opens with a wall of clocks. The camera pans across them and it descends on Einstein's, the Rube Goldbergian machine that opens Einstein's cans of food and dumps them in a bowl. And the bowl is full because Einstein hasn't been there to eat the food. Then Marty McFly comes in and is blown through the back wall by a giant, ridiculously large speaker. And that tells you right then and there, we're not quite in the real world here.
No.
This is more of a whimsical world where apparently terrorists and nuclear material can just be driven around in vans and shopping malls. And
as one does.
Well, and this brings up a great point because, you know, Back to the Future, comic books, all of those. Yes, they live in a fantastical world, in an allegorical world, but they also inherently are a reflection of the world and climate that we live in, to go back to Ben's point, right? And there's obviously already people, and there's already going to be critics or reviewers or whoever who are going to talk about how woke Superman is, which is it's just so silly to begin with.
How dare they? An illegal alien in America.
Where we go back to Action Comics, we have a great panel. We have great, wonderful stuff from Superman talking about, remember, kids, you know, America is made up of all kinds of different races, religions, and creeds. And that's what makes an amazing America. And I love the idea of a movie that kind of gets back to some of those stories and gets back to, shouldn't we all just do what's good for everybody? But then getting into the political minutia of, okay, but how do you do that? And does that work? And does that compromise somebody else? And I feel like that's what we've gotten from some of these clips is, all right, we want to do the right thing, but there are checks and balances to that. That's kind of Lois's point in that interview. You just go off stampeding and doing one thing. Is that actually the right thing to do? Or is it the right thing to do in that moment? Are we being reactionary, or are we actually making great choices along the way? And I think stuff like that is important to talk about nowadays, you know, and not to get super political about it. But when you do look at our current landscape, and to Rob's point, how divided everyone is, how can we have those conversations in a respectful way? Because we have a hard time being respectful about media, about people in capes. So how can we have these greater discussions and still be respectful? So I feel like there's so many cool things within this movie already that it seems like we're going to have some greater conversations about how do you deal with social media? How do you deal with differing political opinions? How do you deal with forces coming into play and taking control of something? And I think there's a lot of greater conversations being packaged into something that is pretty digestible. And that's always what comic books have done. They've taken a really big, scary issue and gone, hey, what if I make it packaged in spandex? Will that make it something that you can pay attention to and have a conversation about?
Yeah, we also live in such like a cynical world too. That's what's so fascinating about the way that this movie's coded out. Because I've always said too, it's like the last like 5-10 years we've been so bombarded with like the evil Superman archetype, whether it be like Homelander or Omni-Man, that I feel like people have kind of forgotten what the pure classic Superman archetype is. Because parody can't exist unless you understand what is exactly is being parodied, or what's being like what the archetype is being like changed or underplayed with. So I think this movie's coming out at like the perfect time to like to really remind people like this is what those archetypes and what that is built off of. So
one thing that Robert, you mentioned was the Back to the Future, and I was thinking about the tone of this film, and I remember when Tim Burton made his Batman movies, and I know I'm probably going in a different direction here, but when he made the Batman movies, they were gritty, grounded to a degree, but they were dark, and the studio didn't bode well with the studio, and they brought in Schumacher, who made arguably, to me personally, one of the greatest Batman movie, which is Batman Forever. But then he made also Batman and Robin, and then because of that, the character of the Batman kind of lost some of its luster, and Nolan had to kind of reel it in and say, no, wait, this character is still important. Let me fix it up and repackage it back to you guys and make it relevant again. My question is, because you brought up a good point about this version of the DCU that James Gunn is creating. could James Gunn be in the precipice of creating something amazing, or he can be in the precipice of creating something that's like borderline corny, for lack of a better word? So I want to ask you. I want to ask. Let me see, Justin. You haven't chimed in yet. What do you think what do you think that James Gunn is about to do tonally with his Superman in the DCU?
So I think one of the most underrated aspects, I think, of James Gunn is his ability to have characters that you grow fond with over time. And I think that he's going to take, kind of like with the last conversation, take Superman into a space where you're just, because even with like this first suit reveal, right? Everybody talks about that first suit reveal.
Right.
Like initially when we first saw that, or at least when I first saw it, it was like, I was like, yeah, it's not bad. Like I liked it. And even I showed like my wife, and she's like, oh, that looks like Superman. But it's as I've seen the suit more, and as I see it in motion, see it over time, it grows on me. And even if we just go to, like, for example, Creature Commandos with like a character like Weasel, who we met in the Suicide Squad, who I love now, of course. But like initially it's like, okay, this guy's drowning, and he has a post-credit scene and everything. And then come to episode 4 of Creature Commandos, and you're just bawling by the end. And so I think tonally what James Gunn is going to bring is a bit kind of what we were talking about before, to just back to basics, like what RJ mentioned, the purity of Superman, back to basics. And then just, you're going to like the ability to, again, have to grow with these characters, I think is going to be amazing. I mean, I don't know if anybody's watched the Guardians film recently. I think the rewatchability is pretty wild on those, and the Suicide Squad, I think, too. And so I just, those things for me, and I can't wait for that. I think tonally too, I mean, just a bunch of hope. I'm just excited to have hope and optimism and all of that. But that's kind of my opinion.
Okay. Let me bring somebody in. We're gonna get a face reveal for the first time, I think.
Oh boy.
Nobody knows. Well, this is a friend of ours, so I want to bring him in. From DC Film News, here's Alex.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Whoa, there's a face.
Wait.
What?
There's a face behind DC Film? What? I thought it was all bots and AI.
All this time, I thought it was a bot until I
know. Go figure.
That's why I kept getting kicked out, because I didn't. Warner Bros. Didn't pay me, so
Yeah.
You can't talk.
Yeah, we got a plant here. How many plants?
We got plants all over.
We have
$10,000 per tweet.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You got 10,000.
10,000.
How many?
That's it.
That's the rate, apparently. 10,000.
Is it?
Really?
I need to I need to be more consistent with this tweeting stuff. But Alex, we were talking about the tone of the film and what James Gunn is going for in this film. How do you feel that James, what kind of tone he's gonna bring forth with his Superman? I'm not gonna say the universe, because he's been adamant about the idea that every director should be allowed to do whatever they want with those characters and give their, bring their tones with them and have different tones with every production. But as far as Superman, how do you feel? What do you feel that James Gunn is about to bring?
Well, the thing is, you guys were just talking about Back to the Future like a few minutes ago. I want to focus on that. Then the Superman talk. It's coming to the 40th anniversary. But no, it's with the tone. Like, I'm agreeing with everyone that's been on this stream. I'm seeing this as something that we haven't seen before, going towards the Silver Age, especially the weird. That's something that studios have been hesitant when it comes to these comic films. They've been trying to replicate what Dolan's done by keeping it to reality, but yet adding in some fantastical here and there. Luckily, that's changed, and we've been seeing a lot of that, but there's still this adherence of not going, let's say, full Kirby, for instance.
That's what Fantastic Four to do.
Yeah, but with Gunn, it's like, from what I've been seeing, from what I've heard, from what I've known, that for this film and even for the universe, it's kind of looking like what Rob said. It's very Silver Age, but then also it's reminding me a lot of the animated series, especially the Superman DCAU. That's something that I grew up with, and seeing all those heroes together with these fantastical stories, and dealt within our essential reality, but in another world. And it's brave. It's going to be a risk, but I think it's something that audiences have been waiting for a while.
Well,
going back to just what Alex was saying too is like, and talking about Superman the Animated Series. I mean, obviously, I talk about Superman the Animated Series frequently on my channel, DC Fanimated, 8:00 Pacific time every Wednesday.
And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe now. It's a great show.
Do the plug.
That was a flawless plug. That was
he's a pro.
Practice. I don't know.
One of the things that we talked about too is like when there is an episode where Flash just shows up and they race and then something happens and then you don't see Flash again. There's an episode where Aquaman just shows up. It's like these heroes that already exist in the world, which is kind of cool. There's no backstory. There's no nothing. You just have a story. They're involved, and then that's it. And I'm like going, yeah, that's what we're getting with this, which I think is really cool. There's already a Green Lantern. There's already a Hawk Girl. There's a Batman out there somewhere, and I like the fact that, that we don't have to like, you have to do the backstory, you have to do this, do that, and then introduce everybody. I like the fact that they already exist in this world that, in Metropolis. They show up in Metropolis and everything. So I don't know. Like, that's what I'm getting. I'm getting those vibes when it comes to at least Superman the Animated Series, which I think is really cool. Like, I mean, if you want to have something different, that's something different right there. So.
Yeah. No,
Could I add something?
Yeah, go ahead. Buddy.
I was thinking of what Robert was talking about with this kind of being still very inspired, which something I've always looked at when it comes to something like Marvel, and then this can be Marvel Comics, MCU, whatever you want to name, and then look at DC. I always looked at DC as this is the story of gods being heroes, and Marvel is very much like how the ordinary human becomes heroes through experimentation or mutation or whatever and so on. And I think that's what I'm kind of like excited for when it comes to James Gunn of having these mixed opportunities of we have something like Creature Commandos that is very much about the monsters, or the monsters, because who doesn't love monsters? Like I saw the fuck out of G.I. Robot die, and I'm like, they can't do this to me. They can't take a robot away from me like this. And then I'm like you could not have told me I would care. I was like, why do I care? Why do I care about Weasel suddenly? So it's like, but what I also love then when we were saying with these other films and shows are coming out, that there can be these multiple tones that yes, we will be dealing with gods like Wonder Woman and like an alien being like Superman, but then we can deal with like one of my part that I'm most excited for is Clayface, which would never guessed in two years when they announced these studios that we're gonna have a body horror Clayface movie before we get a Batman movie. That's bold, and that but that just shows that we can do different things. Whereas when we looked at something like DCU, we all know the mess that came out of that decade. That's why I'm more happy that we have these studios now existing. Where one because one of your earliest questions, Ben, was the fact that James Gunn, someone who is traditionally a filmmaker, is now an executive. I'd rather have a filmmaker as a co-CEO than anyone else. Because we've seen so many executives, they don't care about film, they don't care about they just care about money. They're
it's like one of us is running the show now.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what makes me so happy.
Which can be both a good thing and a bad thing.
That is
true.
Yeah,
I was about to say that. Yeah, I was actually thinking that too.
Stafford also exists at the same time. And then, honestly, I don't feel like running a studio should be like a one person's job. I think maybe that's where I am in favor of someone like Peter Safran and James Gunn right now, as opposed to maybe Kevin Feige, where we're seeing, we're seeing.
It never is. They always have like a brain trust.
Right. But I feel like I like the approach they're doing here on DC as opposed to what we've been seeing with Marvel recently. But that's why I'm I'm excited that we can actually have, not just, listen, if you prefer, horror or and the gritty and so on, there's that for you. If you prefer more of the sci-fi alien elements, there's gonna be there's gonna be something for everyone in the DC union. This is just for what we know of these projects so far. There's a shit ton more that we haven't heard of yet. That I'm like, there's probably gonna be people like, oh my god, this is for me. This fits me. So.
And we're going from Superman to Peacemaker. So exactly.
Yep.
I like the fact that he said that this universe, of course, it's all connected. But whenever you watch a show, an animated series, or a film, you don't need to do the homework of watching every single one of those characters. Because even with comic books, we don't do that. We gravitate towards specific characters. We pick them up, we read them, and we don't need to go back and read every adventures from, I don't know, we'll pick a character. So I like this idea of him creating this universe that, yes, it's all connected, and probably we're telling a larger story, but not every story that is told, it has to adhere and have some adherence to the larger story. So I think that, to me, that was one thing that that really resonated with me.
Well, also, I mean, think about your life. All of you, think about your life. You don't incorporate your friends. Like, not every one of your friends is involved with everything that happens in your life.
Correct.
Like, you have best friends that you've had for a long time. Some of them might not live here, and you don't see them for like 6 months. And when you guys catch up, you might have some adventure. You might spend the weekend together, going somewhere cool, and you have your own adventure. And then 6 months might pass by, you know, but that doesn't mean you love your friend any less, or it doesn't mean that they're so. It like, one of the things when I got back into comics, I'm so old, but it was in the 80s. It was the early 80s, and a kid on my paper route was reading Camelot 3000 #4, which was Mike Barr and Brian Boland, and it was Baxter paper, and it was DC moving into the direct sale market for the first time, and I was blown away. I'm like, what is this? You know, I had to go to the comic book store, and I started going every week. And one of the really interesting things about early 80s, you had all these indie comics happening, and DC was, their Legion was direct sale only, Titans was direct sale only, Marvel had done Micronauts, Khazar, and Moon Knight went direct sale. But if you liked, say, Batman, Jim Aparo was drawing Batman and the Outsiders, and Batman and the Outsiders was a really goofy comic book. It had villains like the Nuclear Family, you know, which was this nuclear powered family. And it was really goofy. And then you had hardcore Batman comics. And the continuity for these Batman comics was all the same. And I didn't sit there and go, when does Batman have time to be the leader of the Outsiders when he's over here fighting the Joker? I never thought that. What I really enjoyed was that I really liked the different depictions of Batman in these various comics. And I knew in my mind, I'm not supposed to think they're all happening at the same time. Nor in my mind was I worried too much about the universe and what it all meant. What I was seeing was different artists' interpretations of aspects of the character of Batman. And that was really interesting to me. And then when I was a huge Justice League guy. As a kid, Justice League was my first favorite. It was the first comic I collected. You know, my mom used to find them for me when I was like 7. She'd find them on spindle racks, and I loved the Justice League because the Super Friends, when they were going to come out with a comedic Justice League, you know, Jam DeMatteis and Keith Giffen and Kevin Maguire's debut book, I was like, how dare they? How dare they make some comedic?
If only there was a thing called the internet I can complain about.
That lasted 2 panels into the first issue. I mean, what Kevin Maguire did, it's hard to imagine this, but what he did with the faces of people, no one had ever drawn comic book characters' faces like that. Totally expressive. You knew what they were thinking. It was so, and the writing was so, it was so funny. And even this guy, you have to make the Justice League serious. I mean, again, it took me the first page. It was, of course, the famous scene with Batman taking out Guy Gardner with one punch. I think it's from issue 6. I mean, and the cover, if you look up it's just Justice League #1, and you look that cover with they're all standing there kind of looking up. You want to make something of it. I mean, it's one of the great, and you could still have the serious Justice League, you know, the Alex Ross Gods Amongst Men, but that comic was so joyful to read. And I mean, it had the character of Elrond. It introduced Maxwell Lord, you know, and it was I was adamantly opposed to this comic until I read it. And it was hilarious. And they introduced like the character of Rocket Red from the Soviet Union. There were so many things in that comic that were iconic and funny, and the characters on, you know, you had like Fire and Ice, the female characters, which it was so whack. People forget it. Get the omnibus. It's such a great comic. But the thing was, back then, you never knew what you were going to get. The comic book industry, even the Marvel and DC, were experimenting, and you're getting all kinds of craziness, and it all worked. I mean, it was all fun. You didn't have to love everything. You didn't have to love Batman and the Outsiders. I just liked it because it was goofy, and then I could go back to the serious Batman, and then suddenly, what is this Frank Miller Dark Knight Return? What is this? What is this? What is this thing that's coming out? Some new prestige format comic? I don't know. It doesn't look very good, man. Cut to
Amazing.
History has changed forever. And, that was the world. And as a comic book fan, it was like every single Wednesday there was magic happening.
Mhm.
It really, and what happened to us as fans? Not like I guess because people, you never know. I remember in '87, I love Paul Verhoeven, but I was like, why did he make a movie called RoboCop? RoboCop, this shit's gonna suck. My friends and I, we all went we made fun of that title for weeks. And then I went to the Harvard Exit Theater up on Capitol Hill in Seattle. We all walked out of that theater walking
Jaws
on
dropped.
air, elated. This was amazing. A movie that but I mean, we allowed what was there. It wasn't about us. We're not sitting there going, well, show me what you got. It was like, okay, we'll make fun of it, but it was all about what was out there. Let's go get that. Let's see what somebody did. We would never, even if there was an internet, we wouldn't have made fun of things. Everything, you know what? Nothing sucked. Things were only varying degrees of good. Like when I went and saw Krull, which is, by the way, coming out in 4K in a steelbook from Sony. I knew there was fantasy and science fiction and all this stuff. It wasn't great. But nobody said that movie sucked. People would be like, yeah, it's all right. That's pretty good. I like the Crystal Spider. You would think what you liked in it first. The world is completely changed.
Yeah, it has
the soundtrack.
People have forgotten what escapism is. People have forgotten, really, it's all about. They don't know what escapism is. They don't know how to even get, they can't put themselves in and just, let a story tell itself and, get engrossing anymore. It's all about, well, you got to, prove to me that it's worth getting into,
Well, because everyone thinks they're above, they think they're above the entertainment.
Yeah.
Yes.
It used to be we were below the entertainment.
It's funny that you mentioned
we were always looking up. We looked up back then.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe something will come along to tell us to look up. Who knows what that might be? Might be in theaters next week.
Who knows?
It's funny that you mentioned the dark. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think this goes back to the conversation element that you guys were talking about earlier too. What James Gunn's going to bring, right? I think we've lost the ability, or we're quickly moving away from that. And I think just the ability to have conversation about film, like you were saying, Rob, talk about things. Things are varying degrees of good. Not leading with such harsh negativity and prove me attitude. It was more, let me have this experience, I guess. And I think that Superman's going to write us in that way. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
I think so too, because to piggyback what you said about the Dark Knight, after that it came out The New Frontier, and when I looked at the cover, I was like, "This looks fucking stupid." And then when I read it, I was like, "This is amazing." And it was a complete, 180 from the Dark Knight, and it was sort of when I was reading it, I remember there was a panel where Batman was trying to save a child, and the child got scared, and Superman, I think Batman changes the tire a little bit, adjusted a little bit, and then he because this character is supposed to be a savior, is supposed to be a hero, and the previous iteration, which is a valid one, it created this aura where Batman is supposed to be scary, and he's supposed to be scary to criminals, but not to kids. And that's where I gather from that comic book. And I feel like this is something that there's a shift happening with this film and this universe that James Gunn is creating, where, you don't have to fear whatever it is that I'm giving you. I'm giving you comic booky films. Just try to accept it for what they are and embrace it. And you might enjoy it just like the rest of us. But I think that was a long-winded comment.
No, we all would like to add to that, by the way, because I felt we're seeing right now a lot in this culture is, that people are almost afraid to love movies because, again, like if they're in, like the space that we're in, like whether it's journalism or if it's YouTube or whatever, it's like people rather be more in tune with when there's negative takes on things, or like why doesn't work, or why this is bad or whatnot. And again, like escapism is more, like, listen, the world is pretty shitty right now. Yeah. And it has been for a very long time. So like when I see these movies and TV shows, yes, I can definitely take, political themes and allusions and metaphors to what we're going through in real life. But yeah, like also saying that, I'm like, yeah, I just want to see someone in a cave beat the crap out of someone. Like, yeah, like that's fun. And I feel like it's almost like it's not cool anymore if you like something, if you're excited about something. I think that's kind of what we're seeing that the DCU is bringing back a little bit to our culture, whether it is, in TV or film, because, like media is like one of the precious things we have that, is constantly being threatened in a lot of ways. We have to deal with the fact that Hollywood writers have to fight against AI, which should not be the thing. That we should not have to live in a world where that is even a debate. So yeah, if we get to spend 2 hours just watching someone with hypnotic glasses trick everyone that Clark Kent and Superman are not the same person, I'm like, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, we can have all these things. Like, that's the thing, is you can have something, again, that holds a mirror up to society, but that's also really freaking fun. Like, you can enjoy that there is an adorable space dog wearing a cape, living his best life, while also having some other cool
love
things.
him so much.
You guys, he looks so much like my dog. Oh, RJ! Amazing!
I love it, RJ.
So jealous.
I'm waiting for the AI short where Crypto and Grogu go at it.
Mine too.
Force powers against Kryptonian yellow sun.
Those only Crypto I have.
You little Grogu, like right
up
off the ground.
I got this one in cinema.
I want to
listen. I know I'm a
Grogu writes Crypto
I
like
still have to buy them.
Falcor in the never-ending story.
I want to add something that about this, and this is like, okay, first of all, I probably will get hate for this, but I love the Dark Knight trilogy and I love the Batman.
Don't worry, you're in good company.
But I think those movies
You're in good company, buddy.
make people think that everything has to have that tone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we are not allowed to have fantastical things, And those are great movies. I love those movies.
Yep.
But now we are seeing something different from James Gunn with a dog, right? A flying dog. And people are saying like, oh my God, what is this? Because we are used to we got used to see things in that, that way, or, like dark and
realistic.
Realistic. That's so I think that's important to think about. And maybe with this movie is going to start changing that, to have fun in the movies.
Yes.
Yara, I'm waiting for the hot take. I'm just hearing facts right now.
I know, right? But it's funny too, because even my brother, I was talking with my brother, and he was like, "Hey, I don't know about the new Superman. I kind of like the grounded approach. He really loves the Dark Knight. He loves the grounded approach." And then we were driving, and I was like trying to, well, do you have any questions about the new Superman? He's like, yeah, it just seems like there's a lot. I'm like, well, yeah, there's going to be a Green Lantern, there's going to be a Hawk Girl, there's going to be Mr. Terrific. And he looks, he goes, what the fuck is Mr. Terrific? And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. I was like, and then you just try to, and then you try to do something, explain, and yeah, some people are just gonna be, it's not gonna be their bag, and that's perfectly fine. He's still gonna go watch it. He's still gonna join me next Thursday. I'm seeing it Tuesday, and then Thursday I'm seeing it with him and my dad, and my nephew and everything, but he's still open to it, at least, but he's just he's a little hesitant. So, and I understand that, especially with him he didn't dive into, he was a He-Man guy. I was the comic book Batman, Superman. I was that guy. And we shared a love of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, of course. But yeah, he was more of the He-Man guy and everything. So yeah, so he's just kind of going, I'm not sure.
So he had Cringer and Battle Cat, but he can't deal with Crypto.
I should bring that up to him. I should bring
that up. Dave brought something up about
did he have like a sign outside his door saying like He-Man, Women Haters Club or something as well?
Is he waiting for Metamorpho though? Like, how are you going to explain that?
Dave, by the way, did you tell him he's going to be getting a dope Masters of the Universe film?
Oh yeah, I've been showing him.
Oh,
Anytime
that
there's
looks it's
little
looking
tidbits
good.
that
That's
come out,
great. Yeah.
I mean, at
Is that the one
CinemaCon,
that-
they showed us a lot, and it looks amazing. And
that
you've
the
got
one
a
that's
perfect
filming right
director and the
now?
perfect production designer and some great actors. I mean, Idris Elba's Man at Arms.
oh yeah, oh yeah. When I
OMG.
told him that, he got excited. He got excited. He's like, "What?" It was like, "Yeah."
Robert, is that the one with Camila Mendes in it?
But
Am I thinking about
Slav,
yes.
you were gonna say something.
Mhm.
Sorry.
I think so. I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know the name of it. I forget his last name. The kid playing Prince Adam and He-Man.
Oh,
Nick
that's
Gallitz.
Nicholas Skalitzin.
Okay, so,
yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
it is that one. Okay, okay.
All I can tell you is that first of all, Travis Knight, who directed Kubo and the Two Strings, and of course, Transformers Bumblebee. He nailed this. I know it's not about that, but the whole look of Eternia and everything that and I had few conversations with Guy Dias, the production designer, who I know because I worked on Superman Returns. He was telling me, I was asking him about certain things. So you can have this in there. Is that, like I said, I asked him about Battle Cat. I'm like, Battle Cat was not shown, and he's like, Battle Cat's in there. I'm like, okay, you know, but the tone again, it's the tone.
Yes.
You know, and He-Man is not exactly high art.
No.
The cartoon was designed specifically to sell toys. It was the first selling toys.
He had all the toys. Yeah.
But so how do you make a He-Man movie? But the tone of it looks right. But you know, I would say the same thing. Like you guys, there are people that are, you know, one of the things that I've been fascinated by is the West's embrace of manga and anime. And I grew up with anime, but it wasn't as big as it is now. But I have to tell you, I watched a series called Monster from 2004.
Oh, that's great.
But the writer of Monster wrote Pluto. And Pluto, it's an 8-episode series. It's on Netflix. It's the best science fiction thing I've seen. It's an animated series, Japanese animated series, Netflix, made for Netflix, 2023,
Pluto?
8 episodes. Pluto, like Pluto, the planet that's now no longer a planet, but
it's no longer
Pluto.
a planet. It's a dwarf.
It's a planet.
It's based on an Astro Boy run. It was the most amazing science fiction thing I've seen in a long time.
Okay.
Now, we would not 20 years ago, if I tried to explain to somebody that this Japanese animated series was dealing with heady adult, if you hadn't seen Akira or whatever,
is it Jet Mars? Because I remember watching that if it was a Astro Boy ripoff.
It's not. It's a prequel to Astro Boy, and as a matter of fact, Astro Boy appears in a different form, but it comes from. Look, I went down a deep dive. I became obsessed with this show. I watched it twice, all the way through in like 2 days. It's amazing, but again, there are people that I know would love it that can't get past the fact that they see Japanese animation in a certain way. They cannot get past the medium. First of all, it is a beautifully animated show. But Americans, you know, we Kris and I would talk about this on the John Campea show. We don't have a sense of whimsy. You know, there's a whimsical nature. Matsumoto Leiji, who worked on Space Battleship Yamato and did Galaxy Express 999, Queen Emeraldus and Captain Harlock and My Youth in Arcadia. The idea of putting a train in space, like a train is running on a track, I guess it's building in front of itself as it rifles through or rockets through the universe. Americans are like, that's absurd. But in a Japanese animated show, you can put a battleship in space. You can have a galleon. There's a Star Wars ripoff called Message from Space that has a 3-masted sailing ship from Europe in space. Americans, we don't process that. And so what you're dealing with now is you're dealing with people that want a realism in their superheroes that they've been getting for 25 years.
Right.
Where James Gunn is coming around and going, nope. I'm going to give you your sense of whimsy is going to come back. I'm going to bring
whimsy
something
out the
back.
wazoo.
Yes. and by the way, American society as a whole, I would argue, needs to be a little bit more whimsical.
Oh yeah.
We have forgotten flights of fancy. We have forgotten Disney. I mean, look at the Disney characters, the classic characters, whether it was Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. I mean, they're like, oh, we can't have that anymore. Peter Pan, Never Neverland, or whatever. I mean, we've forgotten our sense of whimsy. And remember, a lot of these comic book characters came from a world where whimsy was still a thing. Popeye is whimsical.
Well, look at what happened with the Looney Tunes movies, like all that stuff. And there's an audience for one. I even watched.
We're getting Coyote versus Acme. It's coming out.
So
and I watched. What was the other one? I forgot what it was called. The Day the
Earth blew up. It's so fun.
Yeah, I watched it over the weekend, and it just reminded me of like, oh yeah, I remember watching Looney Tunes and loving it. You know, it was great. I enjoyed it. And I'm going,
Robert, can I? Oh, sorry, Robert, can I just ask you, because I love anime too, like, because I agree that when I see people who are outside Japan or whatever, they take in anything that's anime inspired, like they can't really wrap their minds around. That's why it was so interesting when My Adventures with Superman came out, because that show is so inspired by manga anime, and I'm like I would never have guessed this side would have worked for a DC character, and now I'm just like, I need more of that. So like,
well, look who's embracing. I mean, it's Gen Z and Gen A. It's the new generation. Look,
what's Gen A?
Well, the youngest generation, Generation Alphas. But if you look at the fact that every generation needs something that they can call their own, pop culture wise.
No.
And what you have is look, I grew up, I loved Speed Racer, I loved Marine Boy, but Star Blazers was my jam, Space Battleship Yamato. But as you moved in, we had Robotech in the 80s, and then Akira came out in 88, and that was like, Akira was basically the Dark Knight for anime.
Oh yeah.
It legitimized, it's not just Speed Racer or Kimba the White Lion. We now have this very serious. No one had read the manga, but in America, we'd seen the movie, and we didn't quite understand what happened at the end, and it didn't quite work for us all, but we didn't care because the visuals were great, and the soundtrack was amazing, and Canada, whatever, it's all great. But as you moved into the 90s, and you had things like Sailor Moon, you had the female audience who was watching anime. You had gaming. You had the female audience. You had this influx of all kinds of Japanese animation that was showing young people something they'd never seen before. And that's what brought in, suddenly Comic-Con, you would have whole groups of Sailor Moon girls dressed up. I mean, it brought a whole new audience that did not exist.
Oh, hell yeah.
I think Kris has like some show and tell right now.
Oh, I have a Sailor Moon shrine, you guys. This was my gateway drug. I grew up in Texas, and I would make my mom drive me 45 minutes out to Conroe to go to Bedrock Comics so that I could go get the VHS Japanese subtitled Sailor Stars videos. And then from there, because I was in this comic shop, that led me to reading Spider-Man, that led me to reading Superman, that led me to getting into all of this. Yep. It's so good. Also, 1,000 years ago, Slav, you had a point that you wanted to bring up. And I want to know what it was.
No, well, Dave was talking about his brother being hesitant on going to see Superman, and it was more because of the more whimsical tone that that Robert's bringing up. But I want to know, is it just that, or is it more of the is there more hesitance because of where DC was left off after Aquaman 2 and The Flash and Blue Beetle and everything?
No, he doesn't know much about all that stuff. I mean, I've educated him a little bit, but he doesn't. I think he just loves the Dark Knight trilogy so much. He just likes that really grounded approach, and he felt like Man of Steel, like that's a good Superman movie. I mean, he had his problems with BVS, but yeah, I think I don't know. He even said yesterday after we watched Jurassic World, he was like, yeah, sometimes when there's so much visual effects, I get exhausted. I'm going, well, I don't know what to tell you, man. So yeah, it's just, so I don't know. Yeah.
I just worry that's probably one of my worries for Superman, is that there's going to be hesitance because of that, because of,
I think I was going to say something about that, because that thing is like that draws people to the movies, because the Batman was successful, right? So people like that. So what I'm thinking is that James gonna have to give you something, not the opposite of that, but something entirely different. And that's why, and that's what we are talking about, like that maybe he's gonna give us something entirely different that we haven't seen before, and maybe that is the way in again in the DC universe. Not only people liking the Batman, because we know that the Batman is going to be a success, but DC as a whole, because unfortunately people doesn't like DC anymore.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's I remember going back to what Dave's brother said. Who the hell is Mr. Terrific? And one of the things a lot of people complained was that they felt that this film was overstuffed. And watching Slav live stream one time, I remember he mentioned, listen, if they reboot for whatever reason, which is diabolical to think about, if they reboot Star Wars and then redo A New Hope, are they gonna leave out Luke? Are they gonna include Leia? They're gonna include Han Solo, Chewie, Vader, R2D2? All those characters will serve a purpose. So I always thought that whenever people complain about who are these characters, I think James Gunn is doing this intentionally because he wants to create this universe where people who are not familiar with these superheroes become familiar with the superheroes. They become part of the conversation whenever they talk about superhero movies. And I think that's a smart way to go, instead of just setting up just Superman and then introduce Hawkgirl and then introduce Metamorpho, and then in the next sequel here goes Guy Gardner. So creating this living universe is just, to me, makes the total sense.
Well, you're also jumping into something that's like in media res, where you're jumping into the middle of something where it's like it's already a universe that's been lived in for a number of years. 300 years ago, metahumans popped up. Superman's been active for 3 years. You're jumping into the middle of something that's already established, so it kind of makes sense that, like, it'd be a little weird if there weren't other characters like jumping around.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry. I was just gonna say that something to have, to think about is James Gunn has done it, like with the Guardians, So he do something like very special with characters that make us, get engaged with those characters. So I think that's a good thing to think about it.
I was just gonna add, because I remember when when they were casting for Man of Steel and they were adding all these characters, and people were like, "Oh my God, there's so many characters being added, so many actors being added," and we're seeing the same conversation happen now with this film. We're like, why is there so many superheroes and so on? The thing is, like, even though there are all these characters, they could be in for 2 or 3 scenes, like supporting role. Doesn't mean that we're in it for 40% of the film. It could be like 3 scenes spread throughout the film, 3 maybe very pivotal scenes, but it's still like spread throughout the film. We're like, again, this is still a Superman movie. And to RJ's point, if we're jumping in the middle of the story of a DCU that has already been going on, like, it's one thing with Man of Steel, where, like, again, Superman is like the first modern superhero, and then we find out about Wonder Woman. But the point being is, he was the first, so again, that's why we don't see much other activity from the rest of the world. But in this universe, because again, there is the Justice Gang. That name needs to go away. I do not like it.
Guy Gardner.
It's a working title.
So excited when you tag buildings.
The fact that they've been around for so long, like, of course, Clark is gonna have to come up opposite them and kind of react to, like, well, what does it mean to be a superhero under, for example, the corporate world? Because we know that these people, the Justice Gang works for Lord Industries, whatever it is, and Superman is, still that very traditional superhero of, like, I operate on my own terms. I just want to save people. Like, I don't care about, I'm not a symbol for America. I'm a symbol for the world. So yeah, I think that's what people need to remember. That there's a lot of characters, but again, like, some of them are probably just going to be in there for a few scenes. So. And also, like, come on, like, who would have thought that we would have gotten, like, Hawkgirl, Guy Gardner, Mr. Terrific, and Metamorpho in a Superman movie? Like, that's why I love that we're already getting a more comic booky. And when I say comic booky, I mean it in the best, like, the most complimentary way I can. Like, because I love when, it can get whimsical, when it can be fantastical. So, but again, I don't, I still see it in this isn't like BVS through James Gunn's lens. This is Superman from James Gunn's lens in a world where the DC universe is already active and established.
Yeah, I think too, not expecting to have other superpowered individuals or metahumans and thinking that your audience can't handle that is a huge discredit to your audience. You know, like Dave and Alex brought up the Superman animated series. The Justice League and Justice League Unlimited series are some of my comfort watches. And Justice League Unlimited is just like, hey, what's up? We've got a space station and there's 100 superheroes here and they're going to have one-off adventures and you're going to get it.
And look at how they talk to each other in that show.
Yeah.
They weren't like self-important. They didn't talk like gods.
No.
You know,
And they're
they talk mad shit in the cafeteria. It was incredible.
I mean,
and in that show, like, it had
Manhunter.
whimsical stories, but then also it had a lot of heady things too, like with the Watchtower.
And that was
shooting down
that
that
was a
laser,
great
and then
show.
you have Amanda Waller going against them all.
Yeah, those cartoons are like my gateway to DC in a lot of ways. You know,
Yeah, those are mine.
that's what I grew up with a lot. But I think back to the whole conversation about the heroes and stuff too. If you go like way back to when James Gunn first got the job, do you guys remember one of the first things he posted was that picture? It's that iconic Alex Ross cover of Kingdom Come. And I think back to that too, because if you look at the Kingdom Come story, it's a world where it's an already established DC universe that's been around for a while. It's a world where a lot of these younger heroes are very corporate. They have like great morality. And I look at what this movie's doing, and I'm just like, yeah, I can kind of see that. Like Superman's kind of like the one pure hero, this like very weird, messy world, you know, which I love that too, because, you know, like I compare it, we talked about Homelander and Obviate a little bit earlier, but you know, we live in that world where like we see like that parody of the Justice League, kind of like these corporate heroes, these jerks. It's like, yeah, it kind of makes sense that in this world too, there would be heroes that are like that. Like it feels good to like have a commentary about that in some way, like how Superman would address that.
And that's why I don't have a. Sorry, go ahead, Ron.
No, I was just going to say that the thing is, ultimately, the DC universe was designed to put a smile on your face. And to read comic books was an inherently fun pursuit. You know, and in the 80s, things changed. I mean, obviously, people like Alan Moore and Frank Miller subverted your expectations. No, what they did was they took these fantasy tropes and brought them into the real world and used them to comment on other things. But ultimately, what sometimes gets forgotten is our comic book film. We've had a quarter century of great comic book movies. Even look, I'm an Eternals fan, and I will defend that movie till the end of the day. And
I didn't hate it either. It was
and
okay.
so will I defend the Flash. I love the
Thank
Flash. I love that, and a lot of people.
I love the Flash also. Get so much hate about it.
Chris, didn't we see the Flash together?
We did not see the Flash together.
We didn't
I saw it by myself and went, "Oh, this is a movie."
Yeah,
and I love that you guys love it. I love that because not everything is made for me.
But I just think that, like, if you look at the Christopher Nolan Batman movies are not comic book movies; they are crime thrillers that have a superhero character in them. They have more in common with Heat, with Michael Mann. As a matter of fact, Christopher Nolan was, which is awesome. But you know, it's a different. And by the way, it was dope that he went that way. I mean, I love the fact that Batman Begins opens in they shot in the glaciers of fighting Ra's al Ghul on the ice and all that stuff was amazing. It was a great take from a great filmmaker. So that was terrific. But that's not to say that look, I love Pacific Rim. Not Pacific Rim Uprising. I love Pacific Rim.
The first one is amazing.
Giant robots and giant kaiju coming from an alien planet that are coming out of the ocean. Now, this to me tickled every box that when I saw that movie 4 months before it opened at a special screening. When I saw Gypsy Danger?
Gypsy Danger,
pick up an oil tanker to use as a bat on the streets of Hong Kong.
Yeah, dragging
I was effing there for that. I'm like, oh my God. And me, Mr. I love Stanley Kubrick, and you have to do I'm watching this thing that made me feel like I was 5 years old, and I'm like, this Guillermo del Toro, he got it. He understood the assignment.
That assignment.
I know a lot of people. Ramon Dawaji, Mr. Game of Thrones, did the score with electric guitar. And there's nothing. Anybody can never tell me that that Pacific Rim is not one of the greatest fantasy films ever made, because it is.
Oh,
Come at me,
it
bro.
is. It is.
But
It
it was
is.
but it was a guy taking all this stuff he loved as a 5-year-old and smashing it together in a movie and making me believe, man. I believe.
Robert,
Guillermo
were you?
needs to do Gundam.
Robert, oh, sorry.
I was just saying, Guillermo needs to do Gundam.
God, he'd be great for Gundam.
Dude, you
Aren't
see
they
a
working-
Gundam I have in the trunk of my car right now.
Isn't there a Gundam
I'm
being
looking
made
forward
right
to the
now?
Gundam that's coming out.
Yeah.
Robert, were you at the, one of the first Comic-Con panels I ever went to in San Diego was, because again, I didn't know, I was just lining up for Man of Steel, and then I was like, okay, I'm just gonna watch all these other things. But I remember like seeing the Pacific Rim panel, like just seeing like Del Toro in person, just being such a little kid just at a candy store of how like I remember there was someone had gone up to the Q&A session and asked, like, are there going to be these kind of creatures, and so on. I don't remember exactly, so I'm paraphrasing, and like it's just seeing Del Toro's like passion come through, like, because he's geeking out just as much as this like 12-year-old kid is, and I'm like, that's what we need to see back in Hollywood again, like people who just excited to make films for because they love making stories. And I think that's why James Gunn appeals to me. So yes, I don't like everything James Gunn has done. Like I've been on the record saying I do not like the Suicide Squad, did not like Guardians 2, but I love so much of everything else he's done. So to see, and everything's, so I've seen Superman so far, I'm like, okay, we're on the right track of getting something again. Nothing that erases what came before, because that's the thing. Everyone always talks about, like, oh yeah, they're erasing everything that Zack Snyder did, and that the Arrowverse did, and It's like, no, all these things happen so that we can get the next era of DC content. One leap so the other could fly. So that's just the way I look at it.
No, for sure. That kind of goes back to Ben's question, like at the start of this, like what the reaction was to James Gunn taking over. And I've always said, like, to me, he has never made a bad comic book movie. Even Guardians 2, which I know people don't like. I love Guardians.
I love
2.
it.
There's
good things about it. There's definitely
And that's okay.
The whole movie's about families coming back together, fractured families.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
finding
for
each
sure.
other. So
And
good.
when I look at that, it's like you have somebody who is a fan who knows this stuff in the driver's seat, but he's also a writer who understands that this universe has to have it has to be creator driven. It's got to be like, this person has a unique vision for this character. Let's let that person go wild. Like, let's have Mike Flanagan come in with a body horror script and like, let's make a Clayface movie. Let's have a True Detective style Green Lantern show come in and do that stuff. But again, that's the cool part too, where it's like you have somebody who understands like the writing process, who understands what's going on, and people forget this, but had things not been derailed for James Gunn, like in 2018, he would probably be in Kevin Feige's spot at Marvel, at least like the upper echelon of like that whole studio. Because
Wait, what happened? What happened in 2018?
Well, the whole,
Oh God.
yeah.
The whole
That's when that happened. I thought it was much later for some reason. Never mind.
No, it was 2018. But had that not happened, he would be probably one of the head honchos of Marvel right now, kind of dictated that creative flow post Endgame. So it's not like he hasn't been like prepared for this kind of role before.
Yeah.
Like he definitely like has an idea of like that corporate structure, like what that universe building looks like.
I think
Also,
that's
he
why
gets a
he
number-
said he. Sorry, I was just saying, to your point, Archie. I think that's why he said when they initially offered him the job, I think he said no, or at least he was really hesitant, and he only accepted when they made sure that Peter was a part of that package. I think because he probably watched Kevin Feige, watched all of that. Probably, I'm sure Kevin Feige was having conversations with them, saying like, "Hey, I want you to, do this." The cosmic side of Marvel, I think, is what they were talking about there. But I think that's a key point there, I think.
By the way, 26 years ago, when we were making that movie, The Specials, James was partnered up with Peter Safran even back then.
Wow.
So
That's cool. That's cool.
So
Yeah,
Peter, he was an executive producer of The Specials. So
Yeah.
their
OG
relationship.
besties.
Well, I think I
Longer
read-
than my first and second marriage.
Yeah, I think I read somewhere too that Peter Safran used to like be a manager in Hollywood. Like he worked, like he managed James Gunn as well. Kind of helped him.
Yeah,
get
he
started.
did. Yeah, I think he said so. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big part of it. Was the second film we'd founded a company, and Free Enterprise was the first movie we made, but The Specials was the second, and Peter Safran came with that package, and great,
cool.
I have vague memories of him, but a very smart guy, and it's to see where they've gone, and more so than that, we as fans, there has never been a studio, because DC is its own studio. Yeah, it's underneath the Warner Brothers umbrella, but never has a fan been given the keys to the kingdom
Yep.
the way James Gunn has been given keys to the kingdom, and like the Cylons, he has a plan. And for that reason alone, now there's a lot of people. I mean, look, James Gunn came out of trauma. He has a very dark. If you've read his novel, the Toy Collector, the Toy Collector, which I have a first edition hardcover up there on the shelf. If you've read the Toy Collector, he has a very dark, very bawdy sense of humor, and yes, the things that he's done in the past are very Trauma-esque. If you know Trauma's film library, I mean, he's not a bad guy. He just he made PG porn. He made a series called it. I mean, he's got a sense of humor that might not fly in them. It's look, people don't do well with humor, but his humor is dark.
But I would say too, like his humor, and also like you can tell, like when you look at like Slither to Guardians 1 to Guardians 2, 3, etc. He has changed and evolved so much as a filmmaker and grown so much. And you can see it not just like visually, but just the way he crafts his stories as well.
Yes.
You made the comment. You made a comment
about.
Yeah, I was gonna say he made that comment saying, the James Gunn of 2020 couldn't even make this movie. It would have to be someone who's like,
he was a New York punk rocker. I mean, that's what he was. That's where he came from. Like many artists. Like Todd Phillips, who directed Joker. If you've ever seen his documentary about Gigi Allen that's called Hated, talk about dark. That movie is very, very dark. And then he goes on and makes, The Hangover, and then he makes Road Trip with Tom Green. Then he finds himself making
Joker.
And I think that we in this modern age are a little like, because I'm old, I've seen a lot of stuff that I've seen people's careers develop. I mean, Francis Ford Coppola, the man who made The Godfather, started out, and the same with Scorsese, making vaguely pornographic films in the late 60s, because that's how they had to start. People forget that now. And I'm not excusing anybody from their bad behavior. Certainly not. Stallone, the Italian Stallion, he made that movie that was, what it was.
It's almost like we should allow people to grow and change.
No.
I know it's the hottest take.
The door is that way. No, that's not reasonable.
Come here making sense.
You are who you are, and you'll never change.
I like the changes that talking about him being a creative person. And one of the things that he mentioned is that his Superman is not going to be invincible, and that resonated with me because I feel like when you not depower Superman, but have individuals out there that could be just as powerful or that can hurt him, to me makes it a little bit more interesting because it creates stakes. So, what do you guys think about that take of him making Superman a little bit less godlike, like we've seen in previous
Byrne did that. John Byrne did that with the post-crisis Superman when he started writing from Superman 1.
Yes.
Yeah, and we saw that too with Superman in the animated series. Like
the animated series,
man was in a blind space in a spacesuit. Like, come on.
Yeah.
But like he'd be affected by magic. That's also what I like. Because if it's just Kryptonite and Doomsday and Darkseid, okay, like that's very limiting. But it's the fact that because like even though he has some of the most amazing powers one can imagine, like he isn't the only one. Like there are other beings out there from other other universes, from other timelines, that could who knows what they could have. So that's what like people have been saying, oh, this Superman is weak, he gets like, first of all, we haven't even seen what he's gone up against yet. We don't even know why he falls into that pile of snow yet. Like there could, like, unless Krypto and he are playing a really messed up a game of fetch, like there could be something very, very serious about to be going down that we just haven't seen yet. It's almost like we should watch the film first and then judge it.
But at the same time, people say that the character is boring because he's too powerful, but then at the same time, it's like, well, no, you made him less powerful, now it sucks. And it's like,
I think it's because people are super impatient too. Because this gives the opportunity for growth, right?
Yes.
Like he's not saying that Superman's weak. Like nowhere did he ever say that. He said, I'm not making him be able to punch through planets immediately. And so, so it's like, and I think that's going to be interesting to see how people react to that too, because I don't know. Again, we're really impatient, or the general movie audience is is impatient. They're like, oh, we want to see that.
Yeah, instant
And
gratification.
I think it's a way to get to the audiences also, because it makes Superman more relatable. Like you can like seeing him, you know, having issues and troubles and maybe not getting to overcome some things makes Superman more relatable, and I think that's a very important thing also.
Yes, I think so too.
That's why Superman has worked so great on television, for example. Like, you know, like going back to like Lois and Clark, one of my personal favorites, Smallville. If anyone knows me, I know I will always find a way to bring that up. Or Superman Lois. Again, like, there's these very human layers to the most powerful being on the planet. And you know, in films like, okay, like you have 2 hours, I get it. You don't really get a chance to go into all those areas. But that's why I like the fact that this Superman has been active for what, 3 years? Like he's still like he's not the Superman that we know yet. Like he could still be one of those things, but he's still learning about his powers, learning how really powerful he actually is. You know, that was again, you know, even though some people will say, Andy, I think Smallville ran for way too long. One of the things that was good with 10 seasons was seeing the fact that he had to really figure everything out. Initially, Clark didn't want to be. He didn't want this destiny. He didn't want to be a super. He's like, I just want to be some normal kid in Kansas, you know, doing what I do. And then he had to accept that as he grew up. You know, people grow over time, and I think that's what we should see with, you know, with David Gordon's with Superman. You know, and you know, other heroes that we're going to see in this universe. Even though some of them are already established, they're probably not the, you know, the counterparts that we know and love from the comics, that they have to get to that point. But we're just starting in the middle. I think that's okay.
And I'm fascinated to see where he ends up at the end. Sorry, Kris.
Go for it.
I was just gonna say I'm excited to see, for that reason exactly. I'm excited to see where Superman ends up by the end of the film, because I think for most of what we've seen, it's been either the first act or maybe smidgens of the middle. But I think even Superman's arc, like watching how emotional he is, watching his relationship with Lois, and just how that's going to translate to where are we going to stand by the end of the film? Like, where is he going to be? Where is this world going to be? To RG's point of the Kingdom Come aspect too, like, are we going to see Superman do something that just, is there an event that inspires, you know, something to see all the heroes just look to him and say, okay, that's the guy we need to look towards. That's the guiding compass. That's the writing of the ship, so to speak. But you go ahead, Kris.
And he's probably
100%. That's what you want, and it's a fine line, right? Of we don't want to have a Peter Petrelli situation where he's so OP'd that nothing can take him down.
Wow, nice reference.
Thank you. But we also don't want to have everyone and their mom has kryptonite. You know, so you have to find that balance, and to tie it into that emotional growth, to your point, is such a good thing, and I hope that's what they're doing too.
I like
one more week. One more week.
One more week.
5 days.
1 week.
By the way, next week at this time, I will be in a theater.
Yeah, me
watching
too.
it.
Me too.
Actually,
I've
actually just gotten out of it. I think depending how long it is.
But another thing I wanted to add too, it was like when that official trailer came out and they were showing the interview between Lois and Clark.
Yes.
And I thought, I was like, okay, and I cannot wait to see the entire thing, because obviously it's like over 10 minutes long. We only just saw a little piece of it, but when I saw like the discourse about it,
oh my god,
what I loved about it was the fact that he thought, oh yeah, this will be, you know, this is my girlfriend. She's gonna, you know, she's gonna be easy on me. Yeah, it's gonna be fine, and I'm gonna play my role of Superman. It's almost gonna be like, hey, we're doing a little role playing thing, and this is gonna be fun. And Lois was like, no, I'm gonna act like how I act to every interview that I do. I'm Lois Lane. I'm Lois Lane. And then when he gets emotional, and as he should, because he was expecting softball questions, and she was asking hardball questions, where he starts questioning himself and starts feeling like, oh wait, I'm not doing my job. I'm totally just what you know. And I love that. And I'm like, okay, so he's getting vulnerable as shit right there.
Yeah.
So
I like that
Sorry, I just want to say this quickly. As a journalist, I'm just so freaking relieved that this Lois Lane is using a voice recorder, not a notepad, because trust me, none of us use notepads anymore when we're interviewing people. Like, we don't have time to write every freaking thing that you're saying. So I'm just like, thank God that Rachel Brosnahan did her research, because, you know, like, I love all my Lois Lanes that's come before, but whenever I see them like interviewing Superman and they, you know, a notepad, I'm like, girl, you're not transcribing anything. You need a voice recorder. None of us do that. So, you know, and if that's supposed to be a 10-minute scene, like, yeah, I
a voice recorder made by Lord Tech, which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Just like the Apple, looks like the Apple of the DCU kind of.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Even Jimmy Olsen was using Lord
Tech
laptop. Yeah.
Speaking of Jimmy Olsen, he's a bit of a stud in this.
Yep.
Yeah, the ladies have fought it over. I'm just like, yeah, that's Jimmy.
That kid has grown up. Like, I remember seeing him in the Spider-Man movies as one of Gwen Stacy's brothers. I'm like, damn.
People forget that Darkseid was introduced in Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen. Pages of that comic were where the Fourth World began. All of Apocalypse, Mr. Miracle, everybody. Jimmy Olsen's always been a stud.
He's crazy Olsen.
You know why? Because he's read a lot. He knows how to satisfy the ladies. He knows what's going on.
I think recently that
sounds like that was a self-serving word. You're trying to put a word out there.
Robert sees himself in.
I'm still hoping they do some sort of.
You're saying that you're a virgin of.
Just be clear.
Okay. I still hope they do some sort of Daily Planet spin-off with all those Daily Planet characters because I'm like, come on, like something like the Newsroom, like but through DC,
or The Office even.
Yeah,
I haven't seen The Office, but I could see that.
Some internet shorts,
no, them talking to Jimmy and Glow was talking to the cameras, like, and then this happened, and that was crazy.
And then you have
John
Clark looking at the camera,
directly at the camera.
Doing the gym thing.
I like the clips though. I like the clips they've released from the film itself in the Daily Planet. I think they look great. I think they're cinematic. I think they're fun. I think they're intelligent. It shows some really great office banter that we've seen a million times, but it makes it really, really interesting.
Yeah.
I think this movie's going to be great.
Yeah,
I think so too.
I think so.
How dare you be optimistic, Rob? How dare you be
terrible.
optimistic?
Well, I saw Rob. I saw you say. I think it was on Twitter. I replied back to you. It's like it's probably going to be like a polarizing film, but like to me at least, what I said was it's like I feel like with the nerds, it'll probably be polarizing, but I feel like this movie is definitely made to be like very general audience friendly.
100%.
It's really going to like capture like the hearts of people.
There's nothing wrong with
that for escapism.
Yep.
It's going to hit all four quadrants.
Yeah, it will.
Which is something that Zack Snyder's movies did not do.
Yeah.
You read about people could not take their kids.
Don't say that.
You can't talk about the Snyderverse. The bros are going to come for you.
Let me turn
the
off
reason
the
those
chat.
movies did not make the money they should have made is because kids didn't go.
Yes.
It's funny because I just watched a video like today. There was somebody was explaining like why certain things when it comes, and being a diehard fan of Zack and everything what he did, it was like just because I'm open. Hey, I'm one of those crazy freaking guys that is open to other people's perspectives. So when I was watching it, I know, right? I shouldn't do that. I should have blasted in the comment section. How dare
I hope that check was worth it, man.
Oh, I'm such a traitor. Yeah, somebody hit the drop of Kylo Ren saying traitor. Or no, the stormtrooper that says it. No, but and I watched it. I was like, yeah, I get it. See, I enjoyed it. I appreciated what he did, and really enjoyed that whole run. But at the same time, I understand why people weren't drawn to it. I've had conversations in comic book shops, hanging out at a party or something like that. Things get brought up. To perfect strangers in a freaking movie, having conversations with them, and hey, like your shirt, and then you just start talking about stuff, and it's like, but I like the discussion and like to hear their perspectives, and I can understand the perspectives. Hopefully, they can understand mine when I maybe defend it or something like that. But at the same time,
but even
it was an interesting video, and it wasn't slamming Man of Steel. It was just talking about like, oh yeah, this worked. I thought this worked. This didn't work. And I think the reason why people didn't get drawn to it and why it didn't set off like a whole universe that they kind of wanted eventually is because of this. And it made sense. It totally made sense.
I think those movies were, like Robert once said, those are heavy metal. Those movies were very grungy.
You can't just say that you have to.
Yeah,
you gotta raise the devil horns.
Exactly. So,
Zack Snyder's Justice League was like the most metal thing ever.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
By the way, think about this, you guys. Next week, actually next weekend, you're going to have a contingent of parents that are going to take their kids 10 years or 8 years younger, 9 years and younger, to see their very first Superman movie in a theater.
Crazy.
And it's going to have kaiju. It's going to have crypto. It's going to have Superman robots. It's going to have Lex Luthor and Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen and God knows what else. The Justice Gang. Imagine what an 8-year-old kid. I'm getting verklempt.
Getting choked up.
I was like, honey.
Okay, Rob?
Imagine if you're
Yeah.
and you go into that theater on a big screen, and this is your first Superman experience.
Yeah. So they go on a sugar rush.
Yeah.
I mean, my God.
Yeah.
If I was 8 and this was my first Superman movie, my head, I might be dead because my head would have blown up.
Kind of reminds me of like when I went and saw Batman '89. I was
Uh-huh.
6, 5, whatever the hell it was, 7. I don't know what it was. Yeah, trying to do the math off the top of my head, but yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just
And people forget about. I mean, that's a huge movie going audience.
Yeah,
That's why movies, you know, like even How to Train Your Dragon, a delightful film. You know, kids are going. It's their first. The animated the trilogy is great, but going to see all of these different kinds of films, kids and families drive all of this, and that's what Warner Brothers did not have, was the child audience. And now I think that James Gunn, he's not going to come out and say it because he doesn't want to put us off. Right. But to get this audience is a huge deal for the studio because it cements them and makes them like us. I saw Superman the movie when I was 11, and it made me a lifelong. You think I'm going to miss a Superman movie in the theater? Never. Nope. But if you're 8 and you get to see a movie that has monsters and superheroes and all this stuff, you're never going to forget it.
Well, one of my friends. Sorry.
As I said, it's why that official teaser I think worked so well, and
it
why
really
I think
did.
it continued like that perfectly captured what you're saying, Rob, the child in you, because the 5-year-old in me was just bawling, but then the fan in me and the person who I grew into just was. I had chills, and I still do every time I watch it. I mean, it's just it's why that's why it was so important to get that right, and I think they hit it, they knocked it out of the park with it. But yeah, I agree completely with what you're saying.
I was gonna say because I remember like you guys were talking about like how because I remember like when I had seen BBS, I had one of my friends who he has kids who was like 8 or 9. He was like, can I take him to see BBS? And I'm like, I really love this movie, but I'm also a man in my 20s. Your kids should probably like if you want them to see anything about Batman vs Superman, go watch World's Finest. Like let them start with that because I think that's the more better.
Ben Affleck's kids were like kind of afraid of him.
Yes.
He admitted that in recent interviews where it's like, because it was a serious take. It was
but to Robert's point,
there's nothing wrong with that, but at the same time, it was like, oh shit, like,
we lost their children.
To Robert's point,
watch it because I was scary. I was too scary, I should say.
To Robert's point, because one of my good friends, Vanessa, who runs Multiverse of Color with me, her daughter Ivy, yes, who's named after Ivy, as in DC Comics Ivy. She is like 2 years old, and she's like seeing some of the trailers, and I'm thinking, and I pointed out to Vanessa like, that's Ivy's first Superman, and it's like, and she's like, oh my god, I didn't even think about it. So that's the fact that it's, for all of us, no matter who we grew up with as our first Superman, now we get to see a next generation having that first experience. And I think that's why, I love, because again, the people being like convinced that I'm somehow like, turned on Zack Snyder, that I'm like stabbing in the back. But like, Man of Steel is one of my favorite Superman movies of all time. Batman vs Superman is an amazing film. The Snyder Cut, I mean, I could talk about it for hours, but let's be honest. You can't show it to every audience that you're targeting with these type of films. You will get the adults and the young adults and some teenagers and whatnot, but you're not gonna get the kids that some of these films aren't for.
Well, I own these movies on physical media. I love these movies to death, but it took me a while to warm up to them because I watched Man of Steel, loved Man of Steel. BBS, I was like, I don't know about this. I watched the Ultimate Cut though a couple times. Like, it really wasn't until the Snyder Cut came out where like I get what he was going for, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is too, it's just like I've always looked at like this is a great Elseworlds version of DC. It's a great Elseworlds story. I think it's the venue that people have to look at it from too. It's like it wasn't everybody's jam, and that's okay. I don't think this is going to be everyone's jam either, but I feel like. I put it like I'm not trying to like be mean about it, but it's more so just like I feel like what you're trying to do is like be a little bit more mass friendly versus where this is very much hardcore DC friendly. if that makes sense.
More inclusive. Yes.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, and those movies are always going to exist. So if you don't like this one, go watch those.
We have 9.5 hours. We have 9.5 hours.
Yep.
They're not getting erased. They will always be
more,
there.
even if you want to include one.
Studios not going to take away those films. There was
James
Imagine
Gunn
if
is going to
you're
personally come to your house and take your physical media.
Yeah, or they're
and destroy
magically
them.
going to disappear after.
Jane Jones.
But that's one of the things we've been acting this whole time, is that they're acting as if like that James Gunn is somehow erasing this era. It's like, no, this era is over because of a lot of factors. You know, a lot of factors that were beyond Zack's control, a lot of factors that were beyond even us as audiences' control. Again, these films will always exist. Like again, like that's why, like, you know, we will think about it this way. David Cornsway is about to be the 10th Superman.
12.
12. There we 12. There we go. So like, if for whatever reason you don't like this one, you will always have Henry Cavill, Tom Welling, Brandon Routh, Dean Cain, Christopher Reeve, George Reed. Like you always have them. They're not. It's not like they're like those things never matter. Those things happen so that we can continue having Superman stories. Because at some point, let's say theoretically, the Snyderverse, like let's say it's now been existing for 15 years or so. At some point, some of these actors are gonna get older. They are getting older, and they're not going to want to be attached to these roles anymore. So at some point, this universe would have ended anyway. And because the DCU was never really properly planned, because Warner Bros. The fuck out of it, and that's why it was such a shamble. But now with James Gunn and DC Studios, it's like, yeah, I can see this universe existing for as long as MCU has, maybe even longer, because again, it's more creative friendly now. Like they're like the creative comes first. Like the fact that nothing will go into production until the script is done. I'm like, thank God, because I don't need to hear about the 15th reshoot for one of these DC films, because I'm tired. I'm tired of seeing like, why are they refilming this again? Wait, they now the script is getting a 1-page rewrite. Like what is happening here? So, you know, I'm getting old. I don't want any more chaos with watching DC movies. I just want to enjoy myself. I'm I'm losing hair over how much stress it is. Like every time, like, so now this director has exited. Now this director has left. Now this writer has left. Now there's drama between these two people. Like,
Andy, to speak to your point, the movie School of Rock, I saw it at a screening, and I was married at the time. I said to my wife, I said, I'm going to see the earliest matinee of this, the weekend it opens. I went at a place called The Grove here in LA, and she's like, why do you want to do that? And I'm like, I want to sit and watch that movie with a bunch of parents and their kids. And she said, why do you want to? Because I want to feel that energy. Imagine when this movie opens, the weekend it opens, imagine young parents with kids that are a 9-year-old girl and her younger 7-year-old brother.
Yeah.
And it might be the first movie they've ever come to in a theater.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a Superman movie because their family has watched Superman, whatever, and they're going to see it in the theater. And this is going to be their first experience. Like my first experience seeing Superman in the theater, I was 11. And it changed my life. You know, the opening credits changed my life. Dun 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 dun. dun. And you're gonna have families with their kids who are going to be in this theater seeing this film that is full of awe and wonder. You know, we're going to be sitting there arguing, well, it's as good as Snyder cutting. I'm like, I'm close to death, and I'm still talking about the same shit I was in the 70s. You know, which is fine.
Yep,
it's all good. But we need to remember that there is a new generation. The great thing about genre cinema and science fiction, fantasy, horror, all of this is that it is timeless. And, you know, I could have been reading Gilgamesh if I was alive 1,000 years ago or whatever. Somebody's going to date me and go, it was actually only 748 years ago. But whatever. If it was that, you know, we have had stories about gods and monsters since the ancient Greeks.
Yeah.
These are new iterations of that. And they are for every generation that comes along. And we that are children at heart, great. But don't forget, there are going to be people, a lot of kids, that this is going to be their first experience. And we should, hopefully, when we're sitting in those theaters, revel in the fact that we can hear the laughter and hopefully not the crying, because that would suck. But the energy of, or crying could be good if it's tragic. I don't know. You know, maybe it's
if they do something to crypto, I will lose my shit.
I will burn the world.
Be all right.
Yeah.
I will lose my shit.
Did you read the
With
story
that new
at a
Superman
test
wig.
screening? that
Yes.
Crypto got
Yeah,
punched.
the
That's
ultimate
punch,
analogy.
yeah.
Crypto. They cut it
Yeah.
on the phone.
I think they could have done that in a way where Crypto could have gotten his comeuppance, but you know.
Yeah.
But I'm just
Yeah.
saying that remember, movies are mass entertainments for everybody.
Supposed to,
All
and
right.
they're supposed to instill emotion, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think oh my god, who said it? But it was some an actress that I follow. I'm trying to remember what her name was, but she said something that, you know, entertainment is a form of release, kind of like the way that we look at when we're watching sports or when we're watching, you know, art or whatever. And it's, I think that again, you know, when you go into a film or a TV show, like especially when it's about superheroes, because again, like who doesn't want to see the good guy or good, you know, the good people just save the day and just stop evil? Like, because you know, we're barely able to do that in the real world. You know, evil is just running around willy nilly, and that's all I will say about that. But like, who doesn't love just that idea of just going to a different world for 2 hours and just seeing the fact that, oh, here's this alien who is one of the last, I mean, as far as he knows, he's one of the last survivors of his civilization. When he could have ruled this planet, instead, he is taking care of it. Even though people are like, you don't belong here, you're not one of us, like, go back to your planet, or whatever, and so on. Like, he's still choosing to take care of us. And I think that's, like, we need... What was it James Gunn was saying recently? Like, you know, like being good should be cool, like, or something like that.
It's cool to be kind. It's cool
Yeah.
to be kind. Yeah.
Remember, Superman understands humanity more than we do.
Yeah.
Because he's from the it's the same way that Spock, who's completely misunderstood by the people making modern Star Trek, Spock is more human than human.
Every time. How do you do it?
Yeah.
You find a way in.
I think my mom and dad would agree with him. Because
Modern Star Trek has the most misrepresented Spock. They don't understand him.
Where does modern Star
Rob finds
Trek? Wait,
a
where does
way.
modern Spock begin? Does it begin with Zachary Quinto or the?
Begins in 2009
Okay,
with
so
Zachary Quinto,
Okay.
who, by the way, great actor, terribly
Yeah.
written
Yeah.
Spock.
From my
So that's a
hometown, by the
whole
way.
other thing. But remember that Superman, the character of Superman, loves humanity more than humanity loves itself because he's looking at it from the outside. You know, he came from a different planet without its own with its own problems. And you know, I don't know if people remember the original Superman in 1978. The destruction of Krypton, but the entire scene where Superman's a kid and growing up in Smallville. There's this great moment after Glenn Ford dies, Pa Kent dies. And it is one of the greatest moments in cinema history, actually, where he's standing in a cornfield with his mother, or wheat field, and the camera swings around, and you hear John Williams score, da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. And it's after he said all those powers, and I couldn't even save him. The whole point
That was
is
beautiful.
that Superman cannot help the human heart. No matter how powerful he is, he can move mountains, he can move a planet if he wants, but he is incapable of stopping whatever is going on inside in the human heart. And by example, that's what he is doing, is trying to show by example.
Leading by example.
That's exactly what he's trying to do, and lead the human race, an immigrant who respects America, the world, more than we do, and the fact that because he comes from a planet that was destroyed by its hubris, you know, he comes here and he is the best. Somebody said to me, well, I hope if he says, you know, truth, justice, and the human way, I'm going to get all angry. And I'm like, okay, when Superman was created by immigrant kids back in the 30s, truth, justice, and the American way. But the fact is, Superman now is a global idea, a spacefaring man who understands that there is an entire universe of people out there. We're Earthers. We're from Terra. We're from the planet Terra. We represent all of Terra. When we leave the planet, which Superman does, if there's a Green Lantern Corps out there, when someone goes to Oa and has to appeal to the Guardians, they're not going, well, you know, I'm from the United States. Oa's like, I don't even know what that is. The Guardians are like, oh, you're from that planet Terra, you young people? You're telling me what nation state you're from? I don't hear you unless you speak for the planet. Where's Kal-El? He's Kryptonian. He lives on Earth. I need to talk to Kal-El. I need someone with a galactic perspective because your planetary perspective is a little limited. I don't want to hear from what nation state you're from. If you don't speak for your planet, we do not hear you, and we're the guardians of Oa. So shut the F up and bring me somebody who can talk for your whole planet.
I don't know if anyone read this. Does anyone because this was like actually right before Man of Steel came out, because in issue 900 of Action Comics, David Goyer, who we of course who wrote Man of Steel and everything, he wrote a I don't know what it's called. It's a backup issue, like it's in the same issue as issue 900, where Superman, he travels to Tehran, the capital of Iran, and he gets, he doesn't do anything. He just stands there and makes sure that there's no casualties happen, that the army doesn't go through anything like that. Then he comes back to America, and a U.S. agent is like, you were not supposed to do that. Like, you represent America, and if you go over there, they now think that we want to start something with them because you're representing us. And he, again, I know it's not. I don't think it's canon anymore, but it was still very powerful to see the fact that he was like, well, then I'm going to renounce my American citizenship. Mm-hmm. I wonder how that would have worked, because I'm like, but if you renounce your citizenship,
you have to reveal yourself.
Yeah, you have to reveal yourself. But anyway, but again, for me as a fellow immigrant, because like I'm Persian, and the fact that it's like I see someone like Superman who because people always say oh, he's an American icon. I'm like, y'all, he comes from another planet. He's an alien. Like, yes, he looks like a sweet white boy from Kansas, but no, he's an alien. Like, he is not from this world.
I think people are caught up with the values, because if you think about it, if it's like Red Son, if you read Red Son, you see that this version of Superman, his values are influenced by by the Soviet Union. So this is a Superman that landed in America. So those values are reflective of what America is. I think there is a lot of it's a difficult conversation to have in this climate, because it feels like it doesn't matter where you land, there's always going to be somebody with an opposing opinion of where he feels that it's supposed to be this thing.
But if he goes to War World that's controlled by Mongol, and he has to fight Mongol over and over again, when he leaves the planet, who does he represent?
Earth.
Again, he represents Earth. I'm from Earth. I mean, it's not like the people that, like, when he flies over to Apocalypse, he has to go to Apocalypse and talk to Granny Goodness and, Steppenwolf and all those people. When he's on Apocalypse, or he's on new what's the other planet, the opposite of Apocalypse?
New Genesis?
New Genesis. Yeah. If he's on New Genesis, like, does he talk about the fact that, Congress didn't approve me to come here? No, he's like, I'm from Earth.
Even when he saves the planet.
Get your mother boxes off our planet. No more boom tubes in the Caribbean. Get out. I mean,
when he saves the planet, he says, I'm saving the planet. He's not saying I'm saving the US of A or
the planet Houston. Earth.
Listen, we need help. Okay? Yeah. Planet Houston is very important.
It is. It is important. But I mean, 1981. Richard Lester and Richard Donner, like the planet Houston. And you remember, there's a great scene in Superman 2 where they're in the White House, and Ursa's like, "You're a master of all you survey." He's like, "Well, that was yesterday." He's bored. They've taken over the world. He's bored. He's already bored. I mean, the fact is, Superman's never bored. The three outlaws from Krypton were bored after a few days of conquering the planet. Superman is fighting for us every single day,
because he cares
tirelessly, because he cares about his adopted planet, not one country, the planet.
Truth, justice, and a better tomorrow, which I hope makes into the DC. Like, because I know people are like, it needs to be true, just the American way. I'm like, no, truth, justice, and a better tomorrow is way better.
Yeah, better tomorrow's good.
Even Star Trek, where no man has gone before. When Star Trek The Next Generation came out, 20 years later, where no one has gone before. All the great lessons in life you need to know are in Star Trek and The Godfather.
Now, let's talk about box office, because I know. Yeah.
The dreaded word.
Yeah. Those two dreaded
words.
Well,
I think the Superman film is in a great position, because right now, we just talked about that. This is a film that is a 4-quadrant film, which we haven't had in a while. So I think whether the projection is 100 and 130, right? So just how do you guys feel like this film is gonna overperform beyond those 100, 130, or is it gonna fall short? Or does he has? And one more question: do you think that this film has the potential to hit that $1 billion mark?
Well,
or does he need?
I hate the B word.
It doesn't need to hit it doesn't need the billion.
Thank you. Yeah,
but like every film does have the potential to hit the billion.
Yes.
It's
that's true.
all the stars need to align for that, and you don't have to have a 7 score of an A or Rotten Tomatoes of 90% and above to hit that special number.
Right.
It's again, it's just it comes down to whether the audience enjoys it, and it's a word of mouth. So for this film, the goal is not to make a profit. Like, of course, the studio will want that.
Right.
What they need is just to have an audience to come back and trust DC. So whether it hits north of 700 million, so yeah, they may turn a little bit of profit from there. That's all it needs. It just showcases that, like, hey, we have something. The audience is now trusting what we have, and they're going to love the next roll of products that's going to come out. And of course, we're going to have Peacemaker, Supergirl, and so forth in the coming months. So that's its main goal for this film. Yeah.
What do you think, Kris?
Oh, Alex just nailed it. That's exactly it. It's, we go back to that tagline, you will believe a man can fly. Mm-hmm. We all need to believe a man can fly. We need to believe in this universe. We need to believe that there are other stories that we all want to come back to. And not just us, the average moviegoer. Because, a whole bunch of us in here already were like, I love the Eternals. Not everyone else did. We need people who are just going to at least go with this and see it and get this movie to make a profit so they can continue on this journey. We need to make sure that they don't cut the legs off of the DCU before it even gets running. Mm-hmm. And so we don't need it to hit that billion. We need it to just be successful.
Yeah, no other movie this year has even reached that marker. So again,
I thought Lilo and Stitch were going to make it. Doesn't seem like
even the phenomenon, the video game. What's the name?
Minecraft.
I thought that one for sure with all the
whole but it's still.
Yeah,
I hate hearing the B word, and especially when it comes to this space. I mean, obviously. Like when in the past, it's just like that seems like that's the bar, but we're in such a different space now. It's like, no, it doesn't need to be that. And like what we were talking about is just they want to be like, hey, here's the product, and we have way more. We have a lot more that's coming on, and it's not going to flop. I know there's people out there. Oh, it's going to flop. No, it's not.
No, it's not.
If anything, it could underperform, sure, but I don't see it doing a full. It's not going to be Kraven the Hunter. For God's sake.
Nope, nothing's going to be Kraven the
Hunter. But at the same time, just like, all right, it's going to do well. And luckily, when it comes to July, it does have a nice little cushion between Fantastic Four. Like I know What You Did Last Summer and Smurfs, which that's good.
But Dave, Rihanna is Smurfette, guys. Rihanna is Smurfette. Do not forget that.
Oh, okay.
I saw on Battleship. I don't need to see
Smurfette has that low raspy voice. That's what no, but it's got a good cushion where it's like, okay, you have now like, okay, I Know What You Did Last Summer, Smurfs comes out, okay, and then you have Fantastic Four. It's going to be interesting. We have Jurassic World this weekend. It's already doing great numbers, but it has the advantage of the holiday weekend. It yesterday, I think they said it's like 30+ million on opening day, which is great, and it's like going to make its money. But then it's going to be interesting to see where that goes. The drop with Superman, and then of course, everybody looks at that second week drop now, and it's like it's pretty interesting to but good word of mouth. Hopefully, and it just seems like I said, we're still waiting for that marketing, right?
Yeah, exactly. That market.
One thing is that people are not taking
that market has not happened.
I don't think.
Can I just add one thing, Ben?
Go ahead, buddy. Go ahead.
Because I want everyone to let's go back to 2008. I want everyone to don't even think about the Avengers. Look at every MCU movie that came out in Phase 1. Mm-hmm. Not one of them hit $1 billion. No. But Kevin Feige knew that. I'm sticking to my plan. These movies are still making good enough money that it justifies going forward from a financial standpoint. But look at the fact that because Marvel was patient. They were like, let's build out phase 1 that we planned. Let's not rush anything or change anything. You know, I mean, I know like some things probably changed. I think anime was supposed to happen in phase 1. I don't know, but they took their time. That's what they, you know, to Alex's point, like if it makes a decent profit, great. But what DC and Warner Bros. They just need people to want to say, I want more. I want more. Now, of course, if it hits $1 billion, fuck yeah, that's going to be awesome, and it possibly could. But I've been saying this to so many people, like it doesn't need to hit $1 billion, because if Marvel movies were able to do this, even like let's go back to even pre-MCU, the X-Men movies, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, even the original Fantastic Four movie, like these films were profitable enough that it could still continue. And I think that's what Hollywood needs to start realizing, that yeah, not everything is because the reason, for example, like after the Avengers, why so many of the other MCU films blew up was because it came out right after the Avengers. Iron Man 3 blew up because it was right after the Avengers. So again, but now we're seeing, even with the MCU right now, not everything is hit. Like even in the multiverse saga, we have 2 movies. We've had 2 movies that have hit $1 billion out of X amount of film that's come out since 2021. So like I don't like the billion word either, but yeah, sure. I think it's gonna do just fine.
I think this movie has something going for it that everybody's been underestimating. This is a 4-quadrant film. What it has that no other superhero film has had is the family audience. I mean, having not seen the movie, just seen the trailers, I think that everything in it. Remember, I mean, I remember when Captain Marvel was coming out, and I was saying to everybody, I said, what's being underestimated is the fact that you have the female audience. You have mothers and daughters that can go see a female superhero movie that we didn't really have. And everyone said to me, well, it's just because it's Rob. No, it's because it's between Infinity War and Endgame. That's why.
It's such an offensive impression of me.
Yeah.
But that's not why that movie made over $1 billion. It made over $1 billion because there was an underserved audience that went to see it. Yeah. And I think that parents especially have been clamoring to see a superhero film that they could take their younger kids to. And when I say younger, I'm talking about 10 and younger.
Yep.
Because even the MCU, at its height, is still a little sophisticated, And I think that what we've seen in the trailers, what they've emphasized, you see Superman rescuing not men, kids. Girls, animals, and the fact, why have they leaned into crypto in the marketing? First of all, because crypto's effing awesome, but because it tells you what kind of a movie it is, the tone of the film, and I really do think that has been underestimated in terms of how much this is a family movie. This is How to Train Your Dragon. This is not Elio, but this is Inside Out 2. This is a family film, and I really think that if you're an 8-year-old kid and you see this trailer, how can you not want to see this film? And I don't think any superhero film. Do you think 8-year-old kids were clamoring necessarily to see X-Men? No, because when they were 8, they were watching X-Men in 92, and they're now in college, and I'm gonna go see X-Men. This is the first time kids. It's been a long time since the animated series has been on TV. It's been a long time since Batman the animated series and Justice League Unlimited have been on. I think that kids finally have a Superman movie that they can gravitate to. We're gonna go anyway. I'm old. My opinion is invalid. It doesn't matter. You have a whole new generation. It matters on YouTube as a pundit. But what I'm talking about,
a young man.
At heart,
you're not wrong.
I think that you've got kids today more so than anyone is even tracking that are seeing this, that want to see something they haven't seen before, and I think they want to go. And more than that, their parents have to take them.
I took my daughter, my youngest daughter. She's 5 now. I took her to go see Lilo and Stitch. I mean, come on, she's 5 years old. Loves Lilo and Stitch. Superman trailer was attached to that. I'm not kidding. She was more excited about the Superman trailer with crypto than she
Right.
was for Lilo and
Yeah,
Stitch.
so
Right.
was my daughter.
You're 5 years old.
That's my daughter.
She
my
knows what a
3-year-old,
dog
you know?
is. She
That's
doesn't
fine.
know
Yep.
what Stitch is.
Well, I mean,
I
she
bet that-
loves
that's-
Stitch. I mean, we have, I can't tell you how many little Stitch plushies we
Oh,
have
so
around
she
this
knows.
house. But, I mean,
Mhm.
she was so excited about Crypto and seeing the super puppy. And
Yeah.
she wants to see this movie because of that. So, yes, it has the attention of kids and it's going to do huge because of that.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
then us nerds, it's going to do big because of that. And
Mhm.
my mother, who was around in 1978 for Superman the movie, who has watched them all, and no, she's not a comic book nerd, but she appreciates a good hero film. She's going to go see it. Again, you're hitting all the quadrants, like you said.
Yep.
You're getting it all right there.
And that's
Oh,
what
yeah,
I think has
when I
been
went down-
underestimated.
Yeah. When I
Yeah,
went down
no,
the
look-
rabbit hole, that first teaser and saw the trailer reactions, I mean, the reaction to
Mhm.
Crypto was always,
Yeah,
especially
that's
when it
huge.
came when it came to like couples or doing reactions. I mean, it was always like, oh my god, it was like that. It was just like, oh, it's Crypto. Everybody was just.
But Dave, there were a lot of
always,
those
like,
hot takes against Crypto. Like, my dog never did that.
Yeah.
Oh my god! Like,
My dogs fly
dog
every
will
night.
Yeah, come on.
Why is
Come on,
Crypto
you never had a
jumping on
puppy? You never had an
Superman?
over energetic
when
puppy
he
that
jumped
zoomies?
on-
Please.
when he jumped on Superman, and people were like, "Why would he do that?" And like, I literally have a clip of my dog knees literally headbutting me, and like, and like, listen, I got no Kryptonian cells, like that hurt. Like he's gonna heal. Like, I'm just like, girl, it's 6 a.m. in the morning. You're headbutting me. Why would you do that? So it's like, yeah, dogs are like that. And also, here's the thing. I think Crypto is gonna be that character who is like. I think he's gonna be the DCU's Rocket Raccoon. Of like, he is gonna start at a very
Or Baby Joe.
Yeah, or Grogu.
Or
baby.
Grogu. I mean,
Who
Baby
is
John.
Baby Joe?
Baby
Who is
Joe.
Baby Joe? Like,
Metamorpho's son?
I've seen
We
the
haven't
toys.
seen him in
No,
action yet.
I've seen the toys. I've seen the.
There you go. That's Baby Joe.
But I'm just kind of like, listen, I
But you're
don't
right,
care about
Baby
Baby Joe.
Joe.
I don't care about Baby Joe. I care about Crypto, and I think Crypto is going to be the DC.
He didn't mean it. He didn't mean it.
Crypto's kind of your gateway for that toyetic stuff. I mean, I know we've talked about like He-Man and talking about Lilo and Stitch. Lilo and Stitch, y'all, like in other countries, Stitch is the mascot of Disney.
Yeah.
Stitch merchandising has brought in $2.6 billion.
Holy
People
crap.
love that little dude. So
That's true.
having Crypto in here, that's your toyetic
That's
in too.
huge.
So box office aside,
And
if you can have kids getting these plushies, getting those Funkos that all y'all have, like
The popcorn
that's
bucket.
huge.
Yeah.
That was
Exactly.
Oh
genius.
yeah, that
And the
you know
fact-
to your point, Chris, because that's one of the things that people fail to see. That they focus on the box office returns, but people are not counting in all the toys, all the merch, the VOD, all the syndication money that they're
already
gonna get
got
if this movie comes
Look at that.
out. Hello.
He's already got one. Look at that.
Yeah.
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 What the fuck?
I pushed a couple kids out of the way to grab.
Oh,
it,
that's
so-
the best.
You know what?
I
popcorn
believe you
bucket
too.
there,
You know
put
what?
out.
I would've
Where'd
done
you
that
get
too.
that, dude.
That's pretty awesome.
Huh? The Cinemark.
Oh man, that's
I,
my favorite of all the popcorn buckets.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Now,
my
Marvel,
grandest
that's
Cinemark.
By the way,
one.
in the Hot Toys,
24th.
Superman figure, they included Crypto. I'm just
Of
saying.
course.
So
Is that one of those like sort of really really expensive statues? Like one of those like really
Yeah.
detailed.
statues.
Yeah, it's
Little
I think
statue.
I mean,
like 275 or something right now
Statue?
for pre-order.
Look, and do I need to give you a little white vision action? Come on. Here we go.
Oh, that's hot.
Oh my
That's
god.
That's awesome.
Wait, but Ben,
Terry
can you zoom in on
Metalis,
that?
I'm shilling for Terry Metalis' Star Trek and his white vision. shoes.
Let me bring my bad boy to play too. Hold on one second.
No, you know
Bam.
what? Marvel. This is
There
what
you go.
because when
There we go.
I see the crypto popcorn bucket and
Nice.
I see the weird Mr. Fantastic one that has come out, I'm like, y'all, you all had Herbie right there to do a popcorn bucket up. And
No,
instead,
they actually do have a Herbie popcorn bucket. But it's like
Oh,
a
there is?
full-on,
They
it's
did?
a full-on vessel. Like it's popcorn in the back. You can have a drink on top of Herbie's head and candy. in front.
Oh,
Saw
is it
that
AMC?
Galactus, though.
Oh, the Galactus. Oh my god.
Oh no, the
That's
Galactus.
good.
I saw
Galactus
today's.
one's
Yeah,
huge.
that they failed with the Galactus one. It's great, but they should have made it like big enough to wear as a helmet and just eat your popcorn right on top.
Can you imagine?
Oh my
you get
God,
girls
why
like
didn't we-
grabbing your brain. It'd be awesome. I've been waiting for that my whole life.
Okay, somebody get a 3D printer right now and make what Alex just said because that's
I picked up on that, Rob.
Sucio.
No, but I love that James Gunn said that how because he when he got offered to like, hey, we want you to write a Superman, he was like, no, and then he was like, I don't know how to crack it, and then he went, oh wait, I think I do. It's crypto. That's the gateway into it. And it was like, yeah, you know how to write, you know how to make me feel. I mean, after Guardians 3, I was like, how did you make me feel sad about, CGI characters, you son of a bitch? How did you do that? How did you make me like go, gee, like, what? No, And then it was like, all right, yeah, he's really good at that aspect. He played into his strength of what he, when it came to his time with Marvel Studios and with Guardians, was his strength was, basically that. It's like, hell yeah, we felt like in the first Guardians, Groot. I mean, that whole thing, and Baby Groot in the second one, and into the, and then he just, I don't know. There's something about. Obviously, he's good at writing the human characters too, sure, but I don't know. The guy has a knack for CGI characters for sure. So.
You have more popcorn. How do you already have these? Like, look what he has.
I know he's got another one. Jeez,
how many do you have, dude?
Dude, I went. So they released. I called the theater because I'm like, I know I'm gonna have to again fight people on this. So I was like, when do these release? Like, they're not today, and so I ran over there. I think on my lunch break and my day job, I just went to Cinemark and I just scooped them up. So
well done, sir. Well done.
Yes, I had to. I had to.
I still think they had a missed opportunity by creating the Trunks popcorn bucket.
Oh yeah,
that was hilarious.
They should have done that.
Superman 2.
How do you guys feel about the Trunks?
I love them.
I think they're fine.
Yeah. Now I cannot see him without him.
Listen, I'm
fine without. I'm fine without it.
Yeah.
Listen, I was good.
And I love the story that's behind the reason why they went with the Trunks.
Yeah.
That's
the thing. Yeah, that's it.
On behalf of all gay men out there, I'm happy. We're happy. We're happy to have Trunks. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
I'm happy that you're happy, Andy.
I hear what you're putting
Andy.
down.
Heard.
Listen, that first, because I remember the first image he was sitting down, so you couldn't really see that much. You could see that there was obviously Trunks.
What were you looking for, Andy?
That was
Listen,
I was looking too. Just
my Superman, he needs to be big.
I don't know how you can miss it.
That's just one guy. No, because he was sitting again. It was also like very dark. So when the more images came out, I'm like,
yeah, but he can move at super speed. I'm just saying.
I'm not gonna say what I was gonna say.
Okay.
He can do things to me in super speed.
Yeah. But no, in all seriousness, I'll tell you something that the Hot Toys figure has been the pictures are released.
They're releasing them today.
They already have come out. It's a great figure. It looks great. What I find interesting is the Trunks were. I grew up with the Trunks. They were kind of always there, and I understand the reasoning. But I honestly think that when you see them in the film, I'll bet 20 minutes into the movie, you couldn't see Superman any other way. At least James Gunn Superman.
I'm already there with.
I'm already there too.
Yeah, I'm there as well.
I don't think it would look good without this.
Oh shit, this looks amazing.
Version of the suit, yeah.
I like how they work with the belt, with his belt. I think it works, and it's look. I that's not to say Cavill's suit doesn't look terrific, which it does.
Yeah.
I really look.
Yes.
I'm biased, but working on Superman Returns, I like what Brandon and Ralph look like as well. Different choices.
I like Brandon in the Kingdom Come suit better, to be honest.
Yeah, the CW Kingdom Come suit.
Yeah, look, I understand, I get it. I understand, but for the movie Superman Returns, the whole aesthetic, the Daily Planet set and everything you're going for, but,
such a beautiful set.
But
it was.
I do like the Trunks. I like the way it looked, and I know people don't like the new 52 aspects about it. But what I learned working on Superman Returns was you have to make the character of Superman look like he fits the world that he exists in.
No.
And I think, having not seen the movie, I do think when you see the film, I'll bet 20 minutes in, you'll be like, oh, this is Superman. He will fit into the rest of the world.
Yeah, my favorite aspect of the costume is the cape. The cape is like
Oh, yeah.
so
beautiful.
Cape is
gorgeous,
beautiful.
so
Yes.
gorgeous, so gorgeous. That's the best part too. And I like the fact that Gunn was saying, "I don't want a wet T-shirt. I don't want the built-in muscles. We've had that so many times. I want it to look like. I mean, essentially, it does look like a uniform. And I don't know how many times I get in my mentions like, Corn Sweat did all that work and lifted all those weights to be covered. I'm like, well,
It's under there.
Still has to fill the suit out. I mean, he still has to look big and. Not to mention,
And he looked big in that
he's
suit.
gonna have a shirtless
He
scene.
looks
He's gonna have a
huge.
shirtless
Yeah,
scene.
he's massive.
Every superhero movie, you have a shirtless scene. He's gonna have his shirtless scene, of course, to show off, what he's.
There better be.
Yeah, of course, everyone.
Listen, I haven't had a Super
Actually,
Bowl in
no.
almost 10 years.
Paul
Dave,
Rudd
there's a
and
shirtless scene
Ant-Man
for
had a
Jimmy. I'm
shirtless
sorry.
scene, yeah.
Listen, if I don't get one shirtless scene of David Corso in the Super Bowl, I'm like, what was even the point?
Andy and I will riot.
Hey, like I said,
Sure will. Pride Month will be over, but my first is not.
Didn't David Cornsworth said that they decided to go with the trunks the night before
It was a last minute decision.
Yeah,
Pretty
it
much,
was,
yeah.
yeah, because
That
Gunn
is-
was trying. He was like, no.
He was really back and forth on it.
Yeah.
And he was even
Yeah.
discussing with Zach.
Which leads me to believe that the Batman costume's not going to have him, which I'm
No.
fine. I'm like,
Oh, yeah,
Batman
no, I'm
doesn't-
fine.
Well, you can barely see the trunk if it's a black. If it's a
Yeah,
black
or
suit,
if
like
it's-
you're
It might be like an
I'm
accent or
obviously gonna
something.
be
Who knows?
I'm obviously gonna be looking down that area because this is who I am. But normally, like if it's a black suit, nobody's gonna see the trunks no matter what because it's a black suit, which is why.
Andy, how do you know it's gonna be a black suit? It could be a gray and blue.
Yes.
Listen,
Yes.
listen.
It will be.
If it's, I wouldn't mind it either because then you can see certain areas.
Yeah, it's a great utility
Yes.
belt.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
Yeah, that's why I was like when Ben Affleck put on that suit for the first time, I'm like, that's Christian Bale. Who I was like, this is my Batman. So
The last thing I want to talk about is the marketing. How amazing!
What
is
marketing?
We're
what
so
marketing?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know about the
There's
marketing.
no, there's,
Yeah.
there's no
Alright,
marketing. No toys, no plushies, nothing.
Not-
What are you talking
nothing?
about? Nothing.
I'm sorry. I
No,
thought they
I'm
were
tired of
already
marketing.
done.
All right, the running joke.
No
Go ahead,
t-shirts.
Ben.
Yeah. But anyway, last time that we got this level of marketing, this type of event film type of marketing that we get in, it was with Endgame, and I think it was Barbie that was the last one. How do you guys feel? Have they nailed it with the marketing as so far? Have they conveyed the message of this is a new thing, this is a new universe, it's a more hopeful, this is a more inclusive, more family inclusive? Like, have they delivered that message home?
Honestly, I think this marketing is bigger than even what Barbie was or Endgame was, especially these last few weeks. I mean, the last 3 to 4 weeks have just been massive, from them traveling around the world to all the TV spots to all the merchandise, as Yogurt would say, merchandising.
We're
It's
waiting
just
for Superman the flamethrower.
And they're showing up in unexpected
The
places.
kids will love
too,
it.
like the
Oh,
Love
the show!
Island,
You
the
saw
Love
that
Island
that
promo
statue?
promoted.
Oh, that's true too.
they're
one-
doing
that
drone
food show.
shows. They're
Yeah.
doing the
Wrestling.
it's everything.
Yep.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's been massive, and I think it's been phenomenal what they're doing. And like I said, my daughter's into it. Us nerds are into it. My mother knows about it. It's hard not to compare to the other superhero film that's coming out in just a few weeks, which is Fantastic Four, which my mother had no idea about, who is the general audience. And we were in the car and I was talking to her about it. And she was like, oh, when's Superman coming out? And I told her, and I was like, and then a couple weeks after that, Fantastic Four. She goes, there's a Fantastic Four movie coming. And it was kind of like, yeah, like, how do you not know that? And obviously I know, but she's a part of the general audience. Now that's just a small sample, very small sample, obviously, but
Right.
I feel like this marketing has been great. And like I said, specifically the last 3-4 weeks. And yeah, I think it's good. I'll leave it there. Anybody else can go now.
When that thing they did in London was, I'm like, are you all kidding me? Like this?
Yeah,
because
that was
I
awesome.
even I texted some of my editors.
Strad.
Yeah. I talked to some of my
Mhm.
editors who screen ran who live in England. I'm like, have you all ever done something that's behind a film? They're like, no. Like,
Yeah, the world tour that they've
That's
done
so-
has been really well planned out. I really like the world
Yes.
tour that they've done. And like I said, the social media marketing, especially like with those daily drop videos of like,
Yes.
here's the cast recreating the Full House video. Here's James Gunn directing a scene. Here's Jimmy Olsen showing off the Daily Planet. It's like that's cute little stuff like that that really, helps.
Crypto flying on the motion capture stage.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
I love the Princess Diaries one that Nicholas
Yeah.
Hoult. Of course.
Yeah, that was my favorite.
That was great.
That was
Yeah.
awesome.
He's also on the
That was
cover
awesome.
of People this week. If you've ever been to a Dairy Queen lately, they have
Yeah.
a Dairy Queen Blizzard Superman flavor.
Yep.
He's everywhere.
I
Oh
knew
yeah,
it was good.
When I
They're
listened to
all in
Kayla
on
West
this.
in the morning. Kayla
There
West
was
in the morning.
a drone show over Rome last night. Also,
Mhm.
Oh really? I didn't see that.
Oh,
Yeah,
that
I mean,
was
whatever
great.
happens with this movie, like however it performs, it won't be for a lack of trying on their part.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they,
Oh,
they,
yeah.
they really have been doing the best that they can what they have. So
At the end of the
But
day,
that's so
a movie,
funny.
the proof's in the pudding. The
Yeah.
movie itself ultimately is what will sell it.
I think an underrated part of this whole thing too is just today. I think that Gunn talked about the Spotify playlist he made for each of the characters, like the cast, like
yeah,
Clark's
that's what I
playlist.
do. Mhm.
Like, what do you think? I thought that was
I didn't see that.
fantastic.
That's such a James Gunn
was really
thing
cool.
to do that.
Yeah,
That's why I
yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
Yeah,
I
he
think
did
that
that
unique
Guardians
aspect
3, I
of marketing,
think.
I think it's underrated. Yeah.
And then
That's why
another
it's so funny when
thing-
I hear fans saying like, "Oh, where's the market? Where's the market?" I'm like, "Bitch, it's right in front of you. Like, what are you talking about?"
Exactly. everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Like,
everywhere.
Jesus,
Yeah.
it's everywhere.
and they were in London, Philippines, Brazil. Next week they're gonna be in LA, correct?
LA and then New York right
Yeah.
after.
Then New York. Okay.
And then
This,
the
When
thing-
do they
the
go to
final
Beijing
stop
at
is,
some point, too?
Yeah, China's the last stop. It's July 10th.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Got it. Yeah.
yeah, this world tour. What do you
Been a
guys
while.
think about the dynamics between David Carr and Sweat? Oh my god.
He's great.
Yeah.
I go back
Yeah.
and forth between shipping him with Rachel and then shipping him with Nicholas because I'm like, oh my god, like they're so damn likable.
The three of
And-
them are
Well,
way
Yeah.
too
you know
good.
what? Every time I see
Yeah,
them
they-
together, I know they're actors. I know this is their job,
Mhm.
but and I'm not a jealous man. But if my wife looks at another man the way that she does at David Carr and Sweat,
Yeah. And
I think
Yeah,
we're
but
gonna have
she's
a-
supposed to, man.
chemistry.
No, I know. I know. I'm just being
Okay.
facetious.
Remember,
But,
she married you.
yeah. Yeah.
No, but I mean,
Doesn't mean
like,
you can slack off. Bring her flowers when Superman opens.
when she's done with Superman.
Yeah.
No, she'll never be done. You got to keep it up every single day.
Mhm.
You're
Okay.
fighting for her
Mhm.
love.
Oh,
Don't
okay.
forget that.
I
literally.
love that the chat is reminding us like the
Yeah.
Cornswood is married though. I'm like, yeah, we know. Don't
No, we
remind us.
know. That's the point.
Well, I think it's a testament, though, honestly, just to go back to how intense they did chemistry reads.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
They really
Yeah.
made sure
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
Khaled Bogdanova, that's his actual name. Khaled Bogdanova is an incredible voiceover director, and he always talks about legacy characters. And one of the most important things with Superman is his relationship with Lois. And so when you see that banter that they just naturally have on a red carpet, that chemistry they naturally have, it just makes me even more invested. But also, Andy, I am team Nick and David being paired.
Listen, like,
That's who I'm shipping.
I can get into fanfic between two of them. And then there was some shoot they've done where they're sitting on a couch and they're just like doing their smolder look. And I'm like, first of all, I'm like, to be that pretty, like I wish. But secondly, I'm like, but like, what if they did fuck though? Like, what if they did do something? Like, I wouldn't mind this. Like, I wouldn't mind Lex and Superman actually.
You
find
gotta
things-
head on over to AO3, baby. All right, that's where you can get that.
Listen. The closest thing that we've had to Clex in the DC canon is Connor Kent, because technically, half Lex Luthor, half Superman.
That's very, very
I know
true.
1 + 1 = 2. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah. But that chemistry stuff, though, too. I mean, Rob and I got to have the fun experience of me having to do like an audio love scene with my co-star, with my husband there, who was also reading for other stuff. And it's just like that's part of your job, and it's really weird. Where you just kind of crack jokes and hope that everyone feels comfy.
I hope they release that screencast on like the Blu-ray stuff and so on, because like we don't get to see those things that much
Yeah.
anymore.
That'd
Like,
be I'd love that. I'd love that
Oh,
on a Blu-ray.
tell me about it.
That would be amazing.
As someone who made a 3-hour documentary that's on for Superman Returns, I spent 2 years of my life making a Superman documentary. That Walmart said, "Nah, we don't need what you know. We're not going to give you a third disc."
wait, Warner Bros. said
Annoying.
no.
Well, so I was doing Lord of the Rings for Superman Returns, but because of what it did, you know, I spent a year of my life in Australia shooting every single day. I have thousands of hours of footage. There's a 3-hour documentary on the Blu-ray. I'm just saying, right over there, there's 3,000 hours of footage from Superman Returns. I've
right
seen
there,
it.
guys. It's right there.
Right, it's right over there.
I think I think everybody here would want to see a lot of that.
I would love to see
I
it.
think that, by the way, I think that
I will pay for that.
The
'cause-
friends and family
I'd pay for it,
version of
Rob.
Superman Returns, I think Warner Brothers should put that out.
The what version? What? I'm sorry.
The friends and family version that's 30 minutes longer than the version that got released.
Is that the one where he comes back with the silver suit?
Yeah,
he goes to Krypton. And
Yeah, all that, the
destruction.
deleted scenes. I mean, it
You
was
actually
actually,
see
as
them
I
in
like to call it, the version of the movie that was made.
Yeah, the one that could have been
The one where
released.
Cal Penn actually has dialogue.
Yeah, he.
Oh,
Yeah,
to this
version of the
day.
movie. Yeah, that, you mean the original version of the film?
Okay,
that's cool.
I would love to see that. I always
I think
felt
the world would love to see that.
Yeah, I always felt that Brandon Routh has a sadder story playing Superman than Henry Cavill ever did. And
and he was great. I mean, he worked.
No,
his
he was
ass off.
great. I just feel that I think his time wearing the cape was cut short. I don't know, because of the movie, not the performance, but how people would received it. Because I don't want to say
it was
something
also
bad
that it
about
was
the
just
movie.
money. It was really everything comes down to money. It underperformed.
Yeah,
it made less than 400 million worldwide.
Yeah,
on a $205 million
$41
budget
or something.
Yeah.
And also,
so,
honestly, Brandon deserved. Like, I think, like, because I've never been too much of a fan of Superman Returns, but I've always felt like Brandon was always like such a perfect fit.
He was
kind of character. He should have gone to play
great.
his own Superman. Like the whole idea of like, let's make this somehow like a semi sequel to the Reeves movies, but like let him just do his thing. And then when we saw, again, because that's why I'm like, when he got his moment in Crisis, like, he finally got his flowers. Like, because like there were points where people were like, wait a minute, why are we getting a spinoff for Tyler Hoechlin when this is the Superman that we all want? So,
although that show is pretty damn good.
Oh yeah.
No, I love it.
Lois was really good.
Don't get me wrong. But I just remember like the conversation back then, like, because we hadn't seen anything from the spinoff yet. So like,
I think what was really interesting is that Superman Returns was released the year after Batman Begins came out.
Yeah.
And I think the problem was they expected Superman Returns to make a lot more money than it made. But what was really interesting was, again, the studio, the first 20 minutes of Superman Returns, the original cut of it, the Friends and Family cut, where they had the whole Return to Krypton sequence, which is on the Blu-ray, and you can see it's online. You can see that. The first 20 minutes, nobody said anything. There was no dialogue. And when they found the ruined dome from Krypton, a lot of the people, because it wasn't an official test screening, we're showing it to Brian was showing it to friends and family. The thought was that young kids who had never seen Superman 1978 had no idea what was going on. When they saw that dome, guilty, that they didn't know what that was. So people were looking at this going, what is this? Why is no one talking? What's happening? So the studio was like, oh, well, we have to change it. And of course, Brian's a team player, so they changed the script. I think that was a mistake. I think, and by the way, back then, Batman Begins was an anomaly. Really, you had this was pre-MCU. You'd had Spider-Man 1 and 2, X-Men 1 and 2. We hadn't seen X-Men Last Stand. We hadn't seen Spider-Man 3 yet. So everybody was second guessing everything. And Superman was cut down. They cut out half an hour out of the film. A lot of character development. And I'm not saying it was a better film, but it was a better version of the film that then got released. And the funny thing about Superman Returns, when you look back on it, and I'm not just saying this because I have a small part in it or I was the documentarian, it does have a humanity and a melancholy to it that is very unique amongst superhero films. It doesn't have the zip bang pow that people love or that people want. But I do think going back and looking at it now, it's a really interesting melancholy meditation on the character of Superman. And while, does that mean it's good? I leave that up to you. But I will say this, everyone who worked on Superman Returns gave it 120% of what they had. There is no one who is phoning that in. Everybody worked their ass off making the best film they could.
That's what I'm glad that you brought that up, because it bothers me when I hear people just hating on a film or a director, because it's just not the director. There's like hundreds of people behind the scenes working hard, making sure that this movie succeed, and so that way they get a little bonus
and
check.
Brian was the general, man. He led a great team of people. I mean, and Brian, look, full disclosure, I've known Brian for over 30 years. And we met in film school. I have nothing but great respect for him. I made 4 documentaries. I made documentaries on X-Men, X-Men 2, Usual Suspects, which, by the way, have all been re-released, and you can see them, and Superman Returns, which is on the Blu-ray. 3-hour documentary in the making of that film. And if you see it, and also on YouTube, if you go to Brian's journals, you can still watch all of those as well on the making of that film. And it was an incredible experience, an incredible cast and crew. And by the way, everybody, James Marsden, everybody talks about Kate Bosworth being too young. And she was like 23. How's that Lois Lane? Lois Lane. But she delivered, I think, an incredible performance. She's an incredible actress. And her and James Marsden were great. But it was a one-off, really interesting experience and an experiment. I think that that film has a lot more. It's different than what you might want from a Superman movie, but if you watch it now, it's an interesting meditation on the character of Superman and how he might have to deal with the real world.
That plane sequence is awesome too, by the
Yeah,
way.
it is awesome.
I mean, that plane sequence when he's like when he's stopping the plane. I mean, I always thought that was like top tier. Right?
Oh yeah,
it was incredible.
Absolutely incredible. Just the way that he moved. And I remember seeing the behind the scenes when they were talking about like how let's the mechanics of him flying. How would he move his arms when he's like slowing down and descending and doing all this stuff? And you see that throughout the movie. You don't really. Maybe you don't see it at first until you're watching behind the scenes and they're talking about the mechanics of it. And then you do see it where it's like, oh yeah, he goes like that. And then he moves his arms a certain way and he descends and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. Didn't really think about those little details of like, if he's doing this or that or both, or, the way that, and I think like, I think that set the stage for what Zack did with his flying sequences. And I think, and then of course what James is going to be doing with his flying sequences, like, oh yeah, we got to take into account that it's not just like subtle movements of this, and this. There's other things too that we could look at when he's flying in certain.
I mean, they had guys in green screen leotards puppeteering his cape. I mean, it's pretty amazing. And if I do say so myself, I get no money from this. But if you do get the Blu-ray of Superman Returns, you can watch my 3-hour documentary that took up a great part of my life, and I'm very proud of it. So check that out.
Kris says she's got to get going.
Yeah, no.
Sorry, guys. I'm like fighting for my life in the chat. I got to go walk my dogs. It was so nice meeting you guys.
Thank you.
Nice
Bye.
love. Oh my God. I love it. Okay.
Kris, so good to see you.
It's so good to see you. I miss you so much. I love you. Goodbye.
Bye.
See you, Kris.
All right. We're about to wrap it up. I'm about to
well.
wrap it up. I just want to ask one last question and then we go to Yeah, I'm hungry too.
Yeah, I gotta get some food.
Tell me who's your favorite Superman, and do you think that James Gunn Superman has the potential to be your favorite?
Ooh. All right.
I think. Sorry, go ahead. Who's doing? Somebody want to go?
No, go ahead. But
all right, go. My favorite Superman's Tyler Hoechlin. I think hands down right now. I think Superman and Lois. I think just because maybe he's in the same stage. Because I'm a dad too. I know Slavs isn't on here, but I've got 4 kiddos. I think seeing him navigate fatherhood and where they put Superman was such a fresh take on it, and I thought it was unbelievable the way him and Bitsy did. Clark and Lois. I loved it. And I think David is. I feel confident in feeling that David. Like I said earlier, by the time we see him at the end of the film, I think he'll be everybody's favorite Superman. I think just based on the things that I've seen, and just from every moment on this whole marketing tour and all that, I have a feeling he's going to be everyone's favorite by the end. Fingers crossed.
Andy?
I mean, I know everyone's gonna roll their eyes, but like for me, it's till the day I die, I'm always gonna say it's Tom Welling. And like before everyone gets on my ass for saying, but
nobody is.
No,
not
you.
Okay.
The people outline, the commenters, like the ones that lose their shit. Like he never exist. Superman. So Tom Welling has always been my Superman.
It's not a real place.
I think that I think they will be one of my all-time favorites. But again, like for me, like because I had a very special connection with Smallville growing up for my whole life, and of course, like having interviewed Tom and like met him and just kind of like see like how much appreciation he has for Superman now. Like that's not gonna change for me, But like I'm definitely, I think that David is gonna be one of the best Supermans we ever had, and like the fact is that he is also a Smallville fan, so that's a huge bonus for me. But I think that like this Superman is going to be around for a long time to come. And again, we were talking about this before of kids who this will be their first Superman that they ever see. Like because for me, like like I saw the Christopher Reeve movies growing up. But again, like that this was just seeing them through cassette tapes. The kids they, back then we had these. 4 corner shaped things that we had to watch things through, not these CDs or Blu-rays that we have now. So, but again, when Smallville happened, like I grew up with Smallville, so that's why I stand where I stand. But if anyone want to fight me, you know what?
And those Dave has the potential to become your favorite.
One of my favorites, but I don't think he's ever gonna. I don't think
Tom
he's.
Welling.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
All right.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, Robert.
Okay, this is going to seem weird to everybody, but before Superman, the movie came out in 1978, my favorite Superman is George Reeves from the 1950s Adventures of Superman TV show. That was my first. I love that show so much. I was watching Star Trek and The Twilight Zone and Outer Limits and Time Tunnel and Land of the Giants and Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. I love the fact that, and like I didn't understand, like he looked like an old man to me. He looked like my grandfather.
He looked like a mechanic.
So I didn't. But he was always like I would scoop Lois. It's like he was unapologetically a badass. He was not the bumbling Clark. He was this guy. I'm like that guy is super dad. And I loved the George Reeves Superman. Now, did it change my life the way seeing Christopher Reeve and seeing Superman in 1978 did to my young self? No, it wasn't like that. But that was the first Superman who taught me what it meant to be a Superman. He was unapologetically dope. He's like, I'm not going to put up any bullshit. I'm going to scoop your story. I'm not going to wait. I'm not going to be bumbling. I'm awesome. And then he would jump out a window. Dun, 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 dun.
He was him.
He was mild-mannered. That's what
that was actually. Yeah, he was the mild-mannered suit. But that was actually I was doing Max Fleischer. But still, that was my first.
And Robin, to your point too, with Reeves,
it was a job for Superman.
With George Reeves, he had such a adherence to the role to the point with kids they only viewed him as Superman. So when he did like a small cameo for I Love Lucy.
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh yeah.
He did not want his name to be credited. He wanted it as Superman.
Yeah. Because that by the way, that's how I saw him. I didn't think of him as Clark Kent.
Yeah.
I mean, he was and I just loved it so much. But we've had a lot of great and by the way, to be honest, even the 2 different Superboys had different things that I liked. I've really enjoyed throughout my life, because I'm old, going from I had not seen Kirk Allen as Superman until later. So I started out with George Reeves, and to me, imagine as a kid trying to George Reeves became Christopher Reeve. That was a very different. No, just Reeve. It was a different thing to think. I'm like, what? And then and by the way, I did not like Superman 3, and Superman 4 was an abomination. So I'm watching, you know, Superman 2, when you saw it, was dope in 81. But then as it moved through, then you got the Superboys in the late 80s and early 90s, and then Dean Cain was awesome. I mean, Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman, so much fun. They had that moonlighting vibe, you know, it was cool. And then you moved through the world. I mean, we've had a lot of, I think all of the people, honestly, who played Superman were pretty damn good.
There hasn't been a bad Superman.
Yeah, there hasn't been a bad
true.
Superman. Not like, well, I won't even say. Never mind. I want to be nice. Well, listen, I must go as well.
Thank you for joining me.
I want to thank Ben and all you guys.
Thanks,
This has
Rob.
been a great show. This is how much fun was this? Thank you,
It was
everyone.
great.
This was awesome.
Great.
This was
It was
really fun.
unexpected.
Remember
Thank
when we
you.
could like be positive about movies? Like
I know,
for
right?
watching Home? Like, it's possible. Remember,
Totally
it's not just a
great.
millennial thing. Like, you can be part of this too.
Great
have an
panel.
actual
I'll come back
conversation.
anytime. Thank you. And Ben, thank you so much.
See you,
Thank you
Rob.
guys for reaching out and asking me to come. This was a lot of fun.
Yes, it was. Thank
Yeah,
you
thanks
for
for coming,
accepting
Rob.
our
Good to see you,
invitation.
Rob. See
See
you.
you,
By the
Rob.
way, man, I can't wait. A week from today, if you don't go to
Right.
the Amazon screening, a week from today.
I'll be
Please
over.
We'll be there.
All right.
See you,
Seeing
Rob.
you is
Talk to
the
you
present.
soon.
See you, Rob.
Bye,
See ya.
Rob. RJ?
I mean, it's the stereotypical answer, but I feel like Christopher Reeve really embodied everything about the character that we know today. It's just that performance is just so iconic, and just like it changed the way that we talk about, the way we look at superhero movies, the way we look at that character. I mean, every actor that's come after him has looked at that performance and been like, I have to. This is like that's Superman. You know, he really embodied that character for a whole generation, not just on the screen but off the screen as well. I feel like he's like the one actor I felt like was actually like a real Superman in real life too. So
Yeah. Do you think
That's it.
this new Superman might change
I don't know if David.
who your favorite Superman is?
Gun to your head.
I don't know if David will be like my favorite Superman when it's all said and done. I can tell you one thing though. I think Rachel Brosnahan will probably be the best Lois Lane ever.
She's already is
easy.
for me.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's
that's
Erica.
easy.
It's Erica for me, but I think Rachel. Yeah, for me, Rachel will be one of my faves.
Yeah.
Erica's wonderful.
Yeah.
Erica's wonderful.
Dave?
Dean Cain is the best Superman.
Are you fucking
Yeah. Brandon Routh, baby. It's all
I'm saying all you about the man, but like, that show.
Hey,
was
I don't,
really
hey,
good.
like I said,
show was good.
you know, I like Lois and Clark. I grew up on that. I watched that show like crazy. But I mean, I'm a Cavill fan for sure. What Zach did, I do like the brooding stoic, and I did like that little refreshing change at the time.
Yeah.
But Christopher Reeve is always like a close second. But when I read a Superman comic book, I hear Tim Daly. That's, you know, Tim Daly's voice. I love his voice. Just like when I read a Batman comic, I hear Kevin Conroy's voice. So Tim
Conroy.
Daly is holds a special place. Also, I know it's voiceover. It's not, you know, live action, but there's just, I don't know. Just we talk again. DC Fanimated, 8:00 Pacific time every Wednesday. Not every Wednesday, but you know, most Wednesdays. The fact that we love the delivery and stuff, just like Kevin Conroy. But again, I know it's not live action. But yeah, I'm a Cavill guy, but every time, I mean, I've said this about Batman, that I always hope the next one's better. I'm like, I'm rooting for the next one to be better.
Yes.
Like, I'm not one of those that like, no one's ever gonna top this, never gonna top this. I'm going, why would you just stay in that lane? I like when the Batman came out and Robert Pattinson. I mean, at first I was like, "What? Robert Pattinson? What the fuck?" And then I was like, "Well, maybe he has potential to be the best Batman." No, he was close though. He was up there. He did a great job, and I was like, "Holy shit!"
I love the Batman.
Yeah. So like, I'm always rooting. I'm not gonna just because like this, that, or this. I mean, I've said it many times when it comes to Batman. I mean, like, I think Ben Affleck is like the best looking cinematic Batman and the most badass cinematic Batman. But, you know, but then there's other aspects of Batman. And I sit there and go, fucking Val Kilmer was one of the best Bruce Waynes live action. I mean, Jesus Christ, even a good Batman. So yeah, it's difficult, but I would say, yeah, Cavill. But I think Corn Sweat, just from what I've seen, I'm like, all right, he has potential to be could be like my favorite. I mean, even with the little quips that he's had. I mean, I've been seeing the new trailer in front of when Mr. Terrific was like, kind of yells at him. He's like, "Oh, hey Tom, I'm doing important stuff." I don't know.
Yeah.
Some people had a problem with that. I was like, I like
was
that.
so
I like
cute,
that was
though.
a good delivery.
It's a great delivery. It's like
And
to
shout
put
out to all the ones
personality.
who have voiced them in animation. You got Tim Daly, George Newbern, now Jack Quaid. I think Jack Quaid's actually a great Superman.
Yeah.
voice.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My
Little Huey went-
underrated as hell, I think.
Little Huey became the Man of Steel. I mean, it's like that's
That's so crazy.
kinda
But he's
iconic.
so
The fact
good,
that him and
though.
Cavill work together too, or Corn Sweat. Not
Corn is
Cavill.
Wet, yeah. He actually auditioned for that.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that David said that because I didn't know that he wrote Cavill too. I had heard about because Tyler Hoechlin, I think.
Yeah,
talked about
Yes,
that
I heard
he
of
got
Tyler.
that he got from David, but I didn't know it was on the red carpet in the UK. I guess that apparently he wrote Henry too, and they had an exchange, and I love that. I'm like,
Yeah,
that's
me too.
That's
But
great.
isn't Henry and Dave were supposed to hate each other because Henry got
That's true.
fired?
That's true.
No,
Mhm.
no, of course not.
Oh my God.
That is stupid.
Enough with this.
Obviously, David's lying.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole story of.
It's
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
Yeah, they
That's
paid
all
him to
Taylor
make
Swift.
this video.
Yeah.
Alex, who's
It's
your
all
favorite?
planned. It's
Alex,
all
who's your
planned.
favorite Superman?
Oh, that's a tough one. Because the thing is, like, it's gonna sound corny. Like, just like to David's point, there hasn't really been a bad Superman, and I love them all. I love them all equally. And it just really depends on where I'm currently at in my life, and where
That's a good point.
that resonates to how I feel with Superman. So, like, right now at this stage, it's Eklund. Like,
Yeah,
I'm a
I'm the
father of
same
two, and
Yeah.
it's that show and his depiction of a Superman and Clark,
Dude.
like it
Mhm.
resonates to the point. Even my wife just started watching the show, even though I've been telling her about this, and she actually came to me saying, like, hey, you never said anything about the show. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I've been telling you for years. you just found it because you ran out of things to watch to binge. So, like, have fun. But
that is such a beautiful way
What
to put
season
that,
is she
man.
on?
Yeah.
She is on season 2 right now.
That's awesome. That's a beautiful way to
Yeah,
put
she
that.
just
Alex.
recently discovered it, but like to the point with all of them, like even Dean Cain, he was my Superman when I was growing up. I love that show, and even to David's point as well, like especially with Lois and Clark, like it had such like a special impact because that was what I grew up with, even though I was introduced to Christopher Reeves and also the Fleischer cartoons back in the 80s. But that was something that I always was excited to watch every Sunday on ABC, and even there, like even John Shea, for instance, a very underrated Lex Luthor. Like,
Yeah, he's great.
no one ever,
Yeah, he
no
was
one ever
great.
talks about him.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Maybe my season 5. I'm still pissed about that. I blame my mom that the show got canceled because like it was airing on reruns, and then like, she was like, "Oh, you should watch the show." Like I grew up with the show, and then I got to season 4. I'm like, "Okay, so when's the next episode?" She's like, "And sweetheart, it's over." I'm like, "What do you mean it's over? Like it got canceled?" I'm like, "Well, why didn't you warn me?" And she's like, "Well, how was I supposed you would react like that?" So yeah, that show is extremely underrated.
Well, welcome to life. Things happen. But yeah, no, but with Corn Sweat, I do see that he might be the next Reeves, because with Reeve, he had the embodiment of Superman on and off the screen, and that's something that we haven't really seen with all the other actors. Even though they all have been great, and they all have great stories off the camera, especially with Cavill and I think it was his cousin visiting the school.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But,
Yeah, that was
that was awesome.
really sweet.
My
That was
uncle
cool.
really
That
is
was
Superman.
yeah.
That would be-
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that was
But
awesome.
with Reeves, like even like to the street, like people always saw him as a Superman, and he always had that embodiment and that stature. And with David, just seeing how he's been, like especially on the red carpet recently, but then just hearing stories of like what he's done and like who he is off the camera. It's literally freaking Clark Kent Superman.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
Mhm.
I
pure
think
embodiment, like he's farm boy, and all, like they picked a great guy.
Oh yeah.
They totally did.
Well, the thing got also remember because when they were casting this, like they were running on the clock because the actors, the strike was coming up.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
literally the day
that's
before the
true.
strike went into effect, that's when we got.
But the day that he was going for his audition, I think it was Nicholas Holt who said that he was also auditioning for the same part.
Yeah.
That he walked out and he looked
He
at
saw
this
him
man
sitting on a chair,
sitting
like,
in a
the
chair.
sunlight was
The
hitting
sun
David,
hitting
and
his
he
like,
said,
yeah. And there was like the
I
John
know
Williams score playing behind the scene.
Was the
So,
score really playing behind him,
yeah.
like somewhere like on a speaker or something?
Yeah, I don't know, but I think he embodies, like Alex said, he embodies Superman on and off the screen. I think he has the potential to become like this generational Superman, where he becomes everybody's Superman from this point forward. Like we always gonna have like you. My favorite is Tyler, and also George, because that was my introduction to Superman. But
Man,
I think I'm sorry.
Man, you're old. Yeah.
I wish there was
Black,
an
Bill
easier
Black don't crack us. I don't look it.
I wish there was a way easier way to stream like the older Superman stuff. Like for example, like the Superboy show that was on back in the day. Like, I'm like, why?
That's one I've never seen.
Yeah, like I've seen
the Superboy from the 80s. You've never seen that?
Yeah,
I never seen it.
It's okay. It has an acquired taste. It
Yeah,
has an acquired taste.
it's fun. It's 80s fun. Like
It's 80s fun.
Yeah.
It was whimsical, Ben. That's what we're trying to get back to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, whimsical. That's
Main takeaway. Get back to the whimsy. But, yeah,
now.
but guys, we're just a few days away.
Yeah.
Just a few days away.
I can't wait to
Minus
see him
5
Monday.
days.
Time to look up.
I'm freaking out.
5 days.
When are you seeing it, Alex?
5 days. I'm seeing it Tuesday at 7.
I'm seeing it Monday.
Tuesday in IMAX.
Oh yeah, look at you,
Tuesday.
Mr. DC Film News.
Yeah, no, right?
Tuesday.
I had to fight for that one.
Yeah, I get it. Now, if I got like something like, hey, you want to go see like a screening on Monday in LA, I would go, nope, I'm good. I would not. That's how much I hate driving to LA. I would like.
Yeah, no,
I would block that out.
it's in Miami.
Yeah, see, that's different for you. But man, I was thinking, I was like, man, if I were to get like something, if they just, I'm like, I wouldn't want to drive to LA. I'm like, I already have 2 tickets. I'm seeing it twice next week. I'm seeing it by myself Tuesday, and then with the group of people on Thursday. So I'm like, nah, I'm good. Yeah,
I'm seeing on Tuesday, and I bought tickets for Thursday. And it's because I'm taking my daughter with me, and I had to deal with my wife. Hey, if the baby cries, you get the hell out of here.
Wait, is David gonna be her first Superman?
It's gonna be her first movie ever. Like I haven't taken her to.
Oh wow, you're taking
her first. Yeah. So, no, but she said she was the one that I didn't want to insert that into the other conversation, but she was the one when she saw the trailer. And she said, "That puppy has a cape."
That's awesome.
And I was like, "Yeah, that's
the cape. He has power."
Yeah, she's like, "That's Superman's dog." Like, yeah, he flies too. I want to see that, Daddy. It's like, okay, that's it.
Well, to Rob's point too, right? I mean, there's a perfect example right there of the demographic that this film I think is going to hit, and it's going to really, I think, catapult it into because like I said, I've got 4 kids. I got twin girls, Quinn and Ivy. They're 6, and they're excited to say it. Yeah. It is. I mean, Alex, you just said it. It's probably the hardest thing I've ever done, but it's the most beautiful thing as well. Like, I love my girls and my son, and then obviously my youngest daughter. But they like the oldest 3. They like the trailer. They really liked it, and they love crypto. Same thing. They loved it. Look at the puppy. It looks like our dog Emma, because we have a doodle. But and it looks just like crypto. It was wild. Like they were freaking out. But now it's like every day they want to watch the trailer at some point. Like there's like, can we see that crypto scene again? Like that. Like I know a lot of people are giving a lot of like crap about the 5-minute scene in Minecraft, and I know obviously most people loved it, but I know there's obviously a lot of negativity that surrounds DC as per all you know. But my kids, they loved that scene, and they would just have it on repeat constantly. And I really think that I agree with Rob. I think it's going to serve the kids so well, and I think it's just going to be an amazingly fun film. I think it's just going to be so much fun, and I can't wait to see them have fun.
Yeah, no, to your point, like with my daughter, She's 3, and I don't know how many times I've replayed the trailer. And also the 5 minutes scene of Crypto, like for her, it's the damn dog, and to the point where even on the Apple TV, I have a shortcut.
Yeah.
So if she wants to see it, like my wife could find it easily, so she can watch that.
Well, then I mean, when those crypto shorts happen, then you're like,
that's true.
That's gonna be massive.
But my favorite thing of it all is just her just asking questions about Superman, like why does he fly, who is he, and the best part is like every time she's watching the trailer, or even like I'm trying to show her a clip from Reeves, and even like. Yes, she's seen a little bit of BVS. She loves watching the Trinity. the Trinity scene, like her eyes open, be like, "Who is that?" Seeing Wonder Woman just appear, like
it's that's an amazing entrance, man. That is incredible. It's incredible.
Please don't show her Doomsday though after, because if I'm 3 years old and I see that thing, I'm like, I'm never leaving this house. Ever
okay,
again.
My daughter, she laughs whenever she sees the Joker scene from Batman '89 when he goes,
"What?
Oh, that was a Joker scene. I thought you meant.
Oh, okay. I thought it was Joker.
No, he's a Keaton fan at heart, and I made sure of that. She has her own little Batmobile that she will tell you the pieces of the turbine. It opens with a canopy and everything.
That's amazing.
That's a future engineer right there. That's a future engineer.
Wait, I thought you was making her a Ghostbusters fanatic.
Tried. We're getting there. We're getting there.
Okay.
We're getting there. We're getting there with that. Like she liked it at first, but then now she's like a little weird with the ghosts.
Okay. Well, that makes sense.
It's Latina at the time. It's inherent, like like the supernatural.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Eventually. Yeah.
But listen, guys, I think we're going to end it here. Thank you so much for joining me. Andy, thank you. Slav, he already left. Dave, RJ, thank you, buddy. Yara, she had a power outage, so she couldn't come back in. That's why she couldn't come back in.
No, thank you for organizing this, Ben. We need more.
Yes, I wanted to do something else that I talked to Alex about, but I was like, you know what? Let me just do this this roundtable, because I haven't done. We used to do it all the time during the Snyder Cut day. So I was like, okay, it's a new day. We're excited for this film, for the DCU. We finally got our DC studio. Now we can do this type of roundtables more often, because now we're gonna have Lanterns, Supergirl, and Clayface, and whatever else. Yeah,
the Korean Huntress show.
Oh, I just heard about that today.
Talk about that.
Yeah, we didn't get to.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So
like,
there's a lot of.
It's not planned. It's not official.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's just rumors.
It's not official.
But it's part of the fun.
Put it on the next stat. It's not official. Being hide and all that stuff.
Hey, Alex.
You had a lot of things right.
I'm gonna mute everybody. What do you know, Alex?
Absolutely.
We heard that. We heard.
No, I'm just joking. I don't like to put you on the spot. I'm just joking.
And I won't say shit when it comes to that.
No, I know.
Other things, yes, I'll tease little things, but something like that, no.
Yeah.
Well, you know where my DMs are, Alex.
What?
You know where my DMs are.
I was strictly talking about rumers. That's just exciting rumor for me.
Yeah, no, it's just exciting to be talking about rumors or just be in the conversation of DC, because before it's just Marvel, the show, the movies, whatever. But now we have a DC universe.
About DC, it was always like, oh my god, who's rewriting this script?
Yeah.
Oh my god,
they're fired.
I just don't want to have a conversation. It's just a fucking fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to just talk about DC, and that's it. Just to celebrate the characters, and it doesn't matter which film, genre, or anything.
It should not be exhausting being a DC fan.
No, it shouldn't.
It shouldn't be a war. It shouldn't be a war that we fight every single day.
Exactly.
It's just disheartening, just saying like a lot of our mutuals just going after this film.
Yeah.
Especially
if you know, you know.
If you know, you know.
To for this to stop. And they're doing that crap. It's just like it's gotten very weird.
It's what is it that you say? You either die a hero or live
live
long enough to become the villain. So
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much what happened with some of
Jesus
those
Christ, David
individuals.
Goyer cooked with those dialogues.
And he didn't even know it was going to be. No, it was actually Nolan's brother, Jonathan. Yeah.
Nolan,
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, so he
It was Jonathan
definitely,
that
and
wrote
he
that
didn't
one.
even know he was cooking. That's how bad.
Mhm.
That's how bad that boy is.
He's
But
just
listen,
speaking it into existence.
But yeah,
That's what it
thank
is.
you, Ben, for doing this. It's been a blast.
oh
Yeah,
yeah,
this is. Yeah.
we're definitely gonna do this again.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Ben. Thank you for the invite, man. Seriously, this was. It's crazy seeing all you guys. Like, it's wild. I've been watching all of you. Not to like fanboy out. It's weird watching all your videos and just sitting here talking with all. It's awesome. So thank you.
Oh no, I'll be watching your videos.
I appreciate it.
But
it's been a
no,
better time to be a DC fan than right now. I think
it is. It
It's
is a
been
great
the
time
best
to
time
be
to be
a
a
fan.
DC fan.
Yes. So thank you, Justin. Thank you, Kris Carr. Thank you, Robert Meyer Burnett for accepting the invitation. Guys, we're gonna do this. Definitely gonna do this again. And thank you for joining. Thank you, everybody that is on the live stream. Make sure to subscribe, hit like, leave a comment after the live stream if you're catching the replay. Share this with everybody, your pops, your moms, your neighbors, your cousin, even the co-worker that you fucking hate.
The moms.
Share with your haters.
Share specifically with the haters.
Yeah, the haters. Share with all
So
the haters.
yeah, so we'll see you guys, just me by myself, next week again. Until next time, guys. Never let your nerd die. Peace.
See you guys.